to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mario, if you would call the roll.
Arthur Hamilton. Kimberly Jackson. Brian Colton. Here. Julius Wigan. Here. Marie Davis.
Present.
Renee James.
Here.
Michelle Bruce.
Here.
Derek Kennedy.
Here.
Frederick McCoy.
Here.
Carlton present.
Thank you. Any additions or deletions?
Good afternoon, Jeff Gagnon, Planning and Zoning Administrator. We don't have any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda. However, I did want to note the fact that we did receive comments from Draga Lindblom, and they were sent in via email this afternoon. Those comments were printed off and were presented copies of the guys. That's the only update.
Thank you, Jeff. Any disclosure by members? Seeing none, is there a consent that we can adopt the agenda as presented?
I'll make the motion.
So moved. Is there a motion?
Second.
So moved, so second. No objections. Show that the motion adopted. Is there approval of the minutes? Is there a motion?
Move to approve the minutes from March 13th.
So moved by Mr. Canuti.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Seeing no objection, show those minutes adopted. No presentation. We're going to move down to new business. Item number 8.
Good evening. Once again, Jeff Gagnon, Planning and Zoning Administrator. We have one item under new business. That is an application from 7-Eleven Incorporated requesting a site plan and special exception approval to develop and operate a 7-Eleven convenience store with 12 fuel pumping stations at 2600 Broadway. That's within the downtown core zoning district on a 38,768 square foot parcel. Tonight, our senior planner, Mr. Mario Velasquez, will provide the board with following the presentation, there will be opportunity for both public comments and board comments as well.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mario Velasquez, senior planner. And tonight we have a site plan application and a special exception application both at the same time. They both want each other. This is for a 7-Eleven convenience store with 12 fuel pumping stations. We will go over a location map and some pictures of the area to get familiarized with the site. We'll review the staff analysis and we finalize with the review of the special exception analysis. As you can see on the screen, the location is on the intersection of Broadway and Blue Heron.
Take the boards down just for this part of the presentation. Thank you.
Is the view better now?
Yeah, all that stuff is like covering the whole.
Okay. So again, location is in the intersection of Blue Heron and Broadway. As we zoom in, we can see that it's on the northeast corner of Blue Heron and Broadway. Currently, we have a vacant building that was occupied by a bank. It is located at 2600 Broadway. This is a 38,768 square foot parcel. Current zoning is downtown core, and the future land use is downtown mixed use. Just to get an idea of what is surrounded, we have on the north side we have a vacant building. It used to be occupied by a to-go restaurant, and we have some residential units. On the west side we have a vacant lot on the corner, and we also have a pawn shop and ice cream parlor on the west towards the north area. On the east side we have a, well, the picture only shows the landscape screening. That's the screening from residential unit. And the other building that you can see, it's adjacent to this property on the side of Blue Heron. It's just the side of a shopping plaza. On the south side, we have right across the street we have a BP gas station, and we have another shopping street. These are downtown core and downtown general zoning. As you can see on the screen, this is the site plan that has been provided by the applicant. Maybe we can take some lines out, some measurements, and put some color, we can better understand it. And the proposed final building and use would look something like that when it comes to elevation. That's going to be like the southwest corner of the building. That's the west elevation and the south elevation. In the other corner, we can kind of make up the building with the east elevation and the north elevation to make up this building. This is what's proposed: building, gas station canopy, and the bus shelter.
Where's
Okay, after some pictures, we can go into the staff analysis, and the applicant is proposing to build a 2,940 square feet 7-Eleven convenience store with 12 fuel pumping stations at 2600 Broadway. This proposed use will comply with the city's land development regulation if a special exception approval was granted by City Council in the downtown core zoning district. The proposed use will be consistent with the comprehensive plan's downtown mixed-use designation and is also compatible with the surrounding parcels. City services such as roads, water, sewer, and garbage collection are currently available on site, and the proposed landscape is compatible with the city's land development regulation. As far as parking, adequate parking has been proposed in accordance with the city's land development regulations. Going into the special exception analysis, we can see that ingress to the site is available directly off of Blue Heron Boulevard, Broadway, and West 27th Street. Egress from the site is available to Blue Heron Boulevard and 27th Street. For the off-street parking and loading areas, adequate 10 by 20 parking spaces with wheel stops have been proposed in accordance with the city's land development regulations. Refuse and service areas, they have proposed a 6-foot high masonry enclosure that's to hold the 2 dumpsters on site for the garbage collection. Utilities are currently available and active on site. There's an FPL will locate electric transformers for the underground utilities on a new 40 by 15 utility easement on the north side of the property per staff recommendation. We can also see that adequate landscaping has been proposed, which must be maintained according to the city's land development regulation, and also a 6-foot high masonry wall will be installed on the east side of the property to provide adequate buffering from the adjacent residential property. For signage, they have proposed a monument sign, which will be limited up to 42 square feet. It will be installed on the west side of the property. Instructional signs will be installed to show the entrance and exit to the property. and wall signs will be installed on the building facade and fuel pump canopy. For the required yard and open spaces, adequate yard and open space has been proposed in accordance with the City Standard Development Code. Now, staff recommends approval of the proposed site plan and special exception application for the construction of a 2,940 square foot 7-Eleven convenience store with 12 fuel pumping stations with the following conditions. Number 1, 7-Eleven Inc. shall construct and maintain a bus shelter with trash receptacles at the pump train bus stop adjacent to their development on Broadway. Number 2, a 2-year landscaping performance bond for 110% of the value of landscaping and irrigation shall be required before the certificate of occupancy is issued. Number 3, construction must be initiated within 18 months of the effective date of this resolution in accordance with Section 31-60B of the City Code of Ordinances. That day will be City Council Day. Number 4, all future advertisement must state that the development is located in the city of Riviera Beach. Fees and penalties in accordance with City Code Section 31-554 will be levied against the property owner and or business for violation of this section. If you have any questions, the applicant is present. We can answer all those questions or comments.
Before we take the applicant, is there any questions of Mr. Velasquez? Hearing none, if the applicant chooses to speak these examples. And just before the applicant, in fact, Mario, I'm just curious if you can jump back the special exception analysis that you were just speaking of. I got maybe 1 or 2 questions. Not that one, but it related to the bus, I guess
Bus shelter.
the shelter and the receptacle. Why is that a responsibility of the applicant? Or Judge?
Yes, Chairperson, are you referring to the conditions of approval?
Yes.
In the presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, 7-Eleven has agreed to work with us as far as implementing a new bus station at that location. It's probably one of the most active bus stops within the city, and we anticipate that to continue into the future. So we're looking for 7-Eleven to work with Tran, work with the city to identify how they install that bus terminal so it's most efficient and also to maintain it over time.
But generally, is it normally the applicant that maintains the bus shelter? Because I'm thinking of a shelter as the actual overhead with the few benches.
What we're doing right now is the condition may slightly be tweaked as we proceed. There is an agreement that the city has with the county as far as bus shelters and Tran in general. At this point, we just wanted to make sure that 7-Eleven did have buy-in on the concept of the bus bench, and it seems as if they were very agreeable in doing so. So this seems to be the most heightened condition possible. So if we were to work with the county, work with Tran, along with 7-Eleven, I think that the restriction would only be lessened over time as far as the applicant's responsibility for the bus.
I guess maybe I should ask this question first. I looked through the packet, but what specifically requires this fueling station to have to seek a special exception?
The current zoning of the property, downtown core zoning of the property, requires that any gas station or any facility that would have a drive-through requires a special exception process.
I'm sorry. What do you mean by drive-through?
I was using another example. I'll stay on point. If there's any sort of filling station or gas station, it requires a special exception.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Any other members have a question of the presentation?
Chair, I had a question.
Ms. James.
For staff, I was wondering, was the memo dated April 8th from Bauman Consulting used in the staff analysis?
Yes, we release that information in staff analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members? Seeing none, if the applicant chooses to makes the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. McCray. Can we close back up? We have a couple seconds just to put the board.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. McCray.
And if we can let the record reflect that we have Mr. Hamilton here.
I do have a question of Jeff.
And while we're waiting on the applicant to organize their presentation, Ms. Davis is recognized for a question of staff.
Mr. Gagnon, does staff believe that this is the highest and best use of this property?
Well, that's a difficult question. And I think it's a question that most people have in the back of their minds, and the answer is important. I think ultimately a lot of stakeholders within the city would prefer an alternative development other than what's being proposed today. Whether that be a multi-story building, potentially a different use altogether. However, as a private property owner, there are property rights associated with that. And I can say firsthand that 7-Eleven has come in and they've worked with staff. They've worked with us on our new form-based zoning code, which requires them to bring the building actually up to the street. It requires different facade treatments, and they've worked with us through that process. Being that 7-Eleven is a large organization, they do have standards that work for them, and sometimes it's difficult for them to deviate from those standards. However, working at 7-Eleven, they've been very amenable to working staff, and they are trying to fit within the mold that the zoning code currently requires as far as building placement and use and aesthetic components. But ultimately, I think the answer to the question is kind of a loaded question. Would we like to see a multi-story building, whether it's a mixed-use building or office, retail? I think that ultimately that's what the end goal is, but I don't know if the market's going to really allow that to occur at this point in time.
Thank you.
Does that suffice, Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Okay. Couple questions. Police, fire. I'm sorry, Mr. Richards. Excuse me. Police and fire. I know this is through special exception. Have they even seen this at this point?
Yes, absolutely. Within the actual response letter that Ms. James referred to before, that was dated April 8th, 2014, there was staff analysis, both questions and responses to that staff analysis, and that's from every major department in the city, including police and fire.
Okay, and I'm not sure if it was indicated by Mr. Velasquez, but what's the setback off of the corner? Because it looks maybe, I'd say within 12 feet off of the roadway.
Yeah.
Just a rough estimate would be good.
I think that 12 to 15 feet would be an accurate assessment. Again, what our new zoning code, form-based code, is looking to do is bring that building as close to street and sidewalk as possible to create a more pedestrian-friendly environment, to have more eyes on the street. And that's what the proposal is doing at this point. So that's why the building is placed really closer than most of the buildings that you've seen come before you to this point in time, because, again, it's a new form-based code, and we're going to try to get it to be more pedestrian-friendly environment.
Okay, and I'm not sure if this is a question for you, but maybe, I don't know, one of my questions was related to the turn radius, and it looks pretty narrow. It looks not too far from a 90-degree turn there that I guess is westbound going north, but I'm sure it can be worked out. But the ingress and egress, are we having one on both Broadway and Blue Heron? Because
the site plan is currently proposed, does have ingress points on both Broadway and Blue Heron.
okay, and My concern is, I've just managed to see the final result of our Broadway construction, and we have this median strip. I'm not sure exactly how that will play into filling trucks being able to go in and service that filling station. But, I'm not going to say I had a difficult time, but only went that way specifically because I knew that this plan was coming up for board approval. So, I was just kind of curious. If I may, Ms. James, I think you were first if you got a question.
Yes, I just have one more question. I just wanted to clarify, who's the owner of the property?
I believe the current owner is BB&T right now.
Okay.
Okay, if I may, Ms. Davis, I believe you had a question.
Who's the future owner? Is it 7-Eleven or Glenn Straub?
I'll defer to Mr. Richards for that question.
I'm told Glenn Straub will be the ultimate owner of the land.
And then it's leased by, thank you.
Is it
Pretty
a-
detailed question.
Is your question of the presentation from staff? Okay, go right ahead.
Are there sidewalks, because looking at the plan, it doesn't appear to be sidewalks.
Yes, there's actually sidewalks that are outside of the property boundary, so that's why it's not as apparent on the plan itself. The illustration that's up right now is kind of dark. However, within the right-of-way, FDOT has constructed sidewalks on both Broadway and Boulevard.
I have a question. If there's nothing else, Mr. Cole, are we going to underground utilities on Broadway? As far as
I believe the current plan calls for undergrounding the utilities from actually this location itself south to 13th Street.
okay, great. Any other questions on the presentation by staff, Mr. Cornuti?
Yeah, question on the ownership, since it's been brought up. Is the change in ownership conditional on this plan being approved?
Mr. Cooney, you may know, I didn't even ask my client. I don't even know the answer. That's usually a internal business decision matrix, whether who's going to own it, when there'll be turnover. Does the client know the answer? I wish to answer that. How will the ownership ultimately? Is your contract contingent on this going through? Do you know?
We cannot speak to that.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Is it of the presentation by Mr. Gagnon or Mr. Velasquez? Was it of the presenter? Because I'm going to allow the presenter.
It's a staff, and it was
Okay.
something too that was mentioned in the memo that staff had requested, and it doesn't state in the staff analysis if that information was received. The police department wanted the applicant to provide a business failure mitigation plan. So I need to know if that was provided, and also the vehicle crash statistics.
To my knowledge, both of those comments were very unique. I guess I'll put it in that perspective. As far as the crash statistics go, I've never seen that information requested from any other applicant. I don't believe that 7-Eleven was able to obtain that information, so I don't believe that was provided. And then it was the business maintenance plan that was requested. Again, that
Business
was
failure mitigation. Like in case the business failed,
right.
what is their plan to bring the property, I guess, back to some type of workable level?
I don't believe that was received either.
So those were the comments from the police department. So if the police department had those concerns about the application and the applicant was not able to provide that information, because I was able to Google crash statistics for the city of Riviera Beach, not specifically within a quarter mile of the proposed business. I'm just wondering what has staff done about that, since it was asked from the police department, but it wasn't provided.
I'd have to follow up on that. As far as the information access to information, I would think that the police department would be the first department that would have access to that information. So, again, I thought the question was unique in its construction and the request itself, that the department that would most likely have that information is requesting information from the applicant itself. And historically, I've never seen the question asked by another applicant.
I think that's a very great question. It seems like the custodian is asking the applicant to inquire with the custodian of the record, so that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Davis has a question.
Ms. Davis, you're recognized.
Thank you. I think you said there's ingress and egress on 3 sides. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is it Broadway, 27th Street, and
So
Blue Heron?
I look on the screen. This is US 1 running north and south. This is actually East Blue Heron Boulevard, east and west. Then 27th Street is to the north. There actually is an existing ingress point here. I believe this point is also currently existing. So this would be northern ingress point and egress point, southern ingress and egress point, and then there's also an ingress point off of US 1 here as well.
And where's the bus station the bus shelter?
It's difficult to see, but this brown square right here is the roof of the new bus station, or excuse me, the bus shelter.
Because of the because of the 3, ingress and egress accesses, for lack of a better word, and so close to the intersection, do you require a traffic study for congestion or anything like that?
Yes, a traffic study was provided to Palm Beach County, and we didn't receive any negative feedback at this point in time.
So our city doesn't require it?
The city does, however, the county is actually the final reviewer of the traffic analysis and data.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Before you sit down, Mr. Gagnon, I'm looking at the northbound Broadway, US 1. I guess the ingress is clearly obvious, but I know that median strip is now there on Broadway. That would make it impossible for you to exit onto Broadway from the filling station. Why is that the case? Because at least according to this, the only way you would be able to exit if you need to go back north on Broadway is back down to Blue Heron. So how is that determined?
27th Street. 27th Street.
North on Broadway, either you could exit 27th Street, or you could go south to the light at Blue Heron US 1.
And I do see that, but my question is, how is that determined? Like, what factors are considered to decide there should only be an entrance on Broadway as compared to an entrance and an exit on Broadway?
I think that the trips and the way that the circulation flows through the site, the demand wasn't necessarily there. I can see that they want the right turn in as well, just to encourage additional traffic heading north on Broadway to enter the site without having to go onto 27th Street. However, due to site constraints and also the location of the canopy and the filling station itself, there really wasn't additional space here to allow for another both ingress and egress point.
If I may try to kind of restate my question, and I'm not sure if it was clear, but the decision and the factors that's all taken into consideration, is that done by planning and zoning, community development, or is it done by the actual architectural structure from the applicant?
For any curb cuts, new curb cuts, specifically on US 1 and Blue Heron Boulevard, those are both federal roadways. They're both state roadways. So the ultimate approval has to get provided by the state itself for new curb cuts at all. So this curb cut would be approved by the state. So this would be basically beyond the jurisdiction of city staff.
But currently there's ingress and egress on Broadway. I mean, at that bank, you can go either.
Right.
You can come in and you can go out on Broadway.
Right.
So there was,
even though there is an ingress and egress point, but the modification, any sort of modification,
Ms. Dunbar?
it would be approved at the state level.
Really? So this was changed at the state level just to have an ingress compared to an egress.
Right, any modification that occurs along the US 1 and Blue Heron Boulevard would ultimately need approval from the state.
And my question is that the case here? Was that determined at FDOT?
To my knowledge, yes. I hope the applicant would correct me if that's not the case.
That's correct.
Okay. That's interesting. Any other questions of staff? Hearing none, we can certainly take the presenter. And I apologize for the delay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, board members, staff, and residents in attendance, good evening. My name is Wayne Richards, and I am here on behalf of the 7-Eleven Corporation. With me, please stand, is David Niven, the project manager for 7-Eleven, and Charlie Carpenter, the developer for the site. Thank you for both being here. We concur with the staff's recommendation. Staff has been meeting with 7-Eleven for many, many months. And this is really a flagship store for 7-Eleven. This building that is being proposed to you tonight is very different than your traditional standard 7-Eleven. We are impacted by the CRA guidelines. The CRA has had a lot to do with this site. The CRA is here tonight. And I don't want to steal their thunder, but they will tell you that they want this. The CRA will tell you that they support this and they want it. They're here and they'll speak for themselves. But we have met with them as well. We have met their guidelines. The good news is the city staff wants this. The city staff supports this. And I'll shed a few more light on the conversations I've had with Mary McKinney with regard to other uses for the site. She was very clear in her response to me. This property has been designed for safety. It is extremely well lit. We have the maximum lighting that is allowable under the city's code. It is very well lit. Along the front of the property, along the US Highway 1, we call it Broadway and Blue Heron, that glass or those doors are faux doors. You cannot access the building from Broadway or Blue Heron. Those are simply architectural features. In order to access the building, Charlie, would you stand up there by wherever, by the video, if you would?
Yeah.
In order to access the building, one must go inside, internal to the site. And that is the sole means of ingress and egress. There is an emergency exit to the east, right there where he's pointing. So all of the traffic, all of the focal point for that building is really internal and inside. Once again, single point of ingress and egress. 7-Eleven management makes periodic and regular walk-arounds of the site. 7-Eleven probably has more stores in inner city, urban settings than any other store. That's where they do their business, in the inner city, and they're very accustomed to being in urban settings. So their management is required to walk around that site throughout the 24 hours and monitor what goes on. They're smart enough not to get involved. They know to pick up the phone if they see something inappropriate. But that site is well lit. There are regular and periodic inspections by their staff on their site. And it gets back to a question about the bus stop. 7-Eleven does not mind at all constructing that site. They're taking ownership, maybe not ownership of the dirt, Ms. Davis, but they're taking ownership of that corner. That is their corner. And that corner will be clean, it'll be exceptionally well maintained, and that will be one of the safest corners in the entire area because they are walking around that corner on a regular basis. The property is extremely well lit. Hopefully this is not inappropriate, but I enforcement. Once again, the goal, I'm sorry, but hopefully we're not violating any ordinances there, but the goal is to make it open and really accessible to our law enforcement officers. We want people from all jurisdictions, all sworn officers. Feel free to come over there and park your car and get some coffee. Hopefully I didn't mess up there. We have video monitoring. They have a $20 million system for the area for video monitoring, and they are willing to have the police department tie in. I know in years past, the police department would want to tie in. When we received the approvals for the car wash, there's going to be loitering at the car wash, there'll be problems. We have tied in with the car wash is tied in, the police department, 0 incidents, 0 trouble, 0 problems. Well, this site will be monitored 24 hours a day. There'll be regular and periodic inspections by their staff. That will be the quietest, safest corner in the area. There's no other corner that has management walking around on a regular basis as we will have at 7-Eleven. Special exception, as Ms. McKinney explained to me in her words, there are certain uses that require a special exception. Richards, don't worry. 7-Eleven has met, if not exceeded, all of the elements of the special exception, bar none, and staff is indicating us that in their report. All of the requirements have been met for the special exception. This use is consistent with the downtown corridor. We fully agree with staff's recommendation of approval. We agree with the conditions they have placed on the site. And finally, just to touch on the comment, well, why can't we get a Panera Bread? Staff's response to me was, there's not sufficient parking for Panera Bread. Why can't we get a upscale restaurant? The site is not big enough for an upscale restaurant. This site is well suited for a transient customer in and out. This is a phenomenal corporation. They're going to do a great bang-up job for us. And right now, would you hold up the picture on the left and let the audience see that as well? But first, most importantly, our members, the board members. Can you hold that?
Current condition?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what we have now. And staff mentioned to me that out there today, yesterday, they went by to look at it, and of course there were vagrants over there. Well, that site will be demolished. We'll put up a beautiful structure there, a well-lit structure, and that will be the quietest corner that we have in town. Gentlemen, is there anything else you wish to add at this point? Charlie, please come
Just
forward.
to answer any questions that came up earlier.
Oh, thank you.
Particularly, Charlie Carpenter, Creighton Development, project manager for 7-Eleven. Just wanted to discuss access and security again. Just for everyone's information, we have been through the formal pre-application process with FDOT down in Fort Lauderdale at their district office, have been approved for the current driveway layouts. That traffic study that was discussed earlier is at the county level. Once it's approved there, would go through DOT for a second round of eyes to approve everything out there. So those permits would be provided ahead of any building permits that the city would provide to the project. As far as the police comments, I just did want to say they were not ignored. There was a meeting, once comments were issued by staff, there was a full meeting with staff. 7-Eleven was told to treat them more like statements and address what we could. The failure mitigation plan would, of course, be, for one, that the fuel facilities are to the highest spec possible for safety, environmentally, fire-wise. Everything is double-walled. They have monitoring systems. One of the most significant things for 7-Eleven or anyone with fuel on their property is to never spill fuel that really downgrades the property value. It's very important to 7-Eleven as an environmental issue as well. So wanted to make sure everyone understood that those items were addressed at one point.
Mr. Chairman and members, we're here to answer any questions that may come up as soon as they come up.
Mr. Chair, I do have another question. Also in the memo, the store is going to be 24 hours?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so after hours, is the store going to be accessible inside, or is there going to be like a walk-up window? Or is it going to be fully open?
Completely accessible, yeah, fully open.
And once again, our managers are walking around periodically on the site. The site is fully lit, but it's within your code, so we will not be shining on adjacent property. That corner a person will not be able to linger and not be seen on that corner as they can now and a year ago.
Yeah, because I know the business across the street, that gas station, they have that problem with people hanging out there at night. So that's not going to happen here because the staff.
Well, for many reasons. And this is 7-Eleven, active management. They have in their protocol that their manager shall do a walk-around periodically on a schedule. That is very important. 7-Eleven, and maybe they're in suburban areas, but they're 90% in urban areas. They are the experts at operating in inner city areas, and that this is obviously an inner city site.
Thank you.
Ms. Davis.
Sorry.
Excuse me.
No,
one
no,
second.
that's all right. Go ahead. No, that's fine.
Understand that the parking,
Speaking to the microphone.
understand that parking is not going to be a big thing, you know. But right here on where that tree is on the northeast corner, yeah, right on the northeast corner, right over the side.
Yes.
Right side. Why can't that be part of parking lot, a parking area? You have a lot of senior citizens that live over in that area.
May I come closer, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
And,
Would you point on that, Mr. Wiggum?
okay, right here.
The tree is at the corner of the parking.
Right. Why couldn't that be used as parking area? Well, you need more handicap space over there. You have a lot of senior citizens that live, you know, on that side of town.
Just for everyone's clarification, I believe Mr. Riggin is referring to this section of the site. Is that correct, sir?
Is that where?
To the
Left.
Right.
Yeah, right there.
Oh, this section. Oh, okay. Well, to describe this is actually the enclosement area for the dumpster. And what happens is, also many parking spaces, our code requires a landscape island, which provides for really the urban tree canopy. And what you see here is just really a space that would be difficult to use because of the way traffic would come through the site. So really the way it works, and this landscape island itself is probably only, let's say, 25 by 25 feet. So best case scenario, you'd only be able to fit maybe one parking spot here. So instead of doing that, because of the site logistics, it was more appropriate, and also because of our code, they have to have a certain amount of shade trees on site. So that's why you see the green area and the shade tree here versus additional parking spaces.
But the thing of it is, unless I'm looking at the plan for the parking long, there's not enough handicap parking spaces.
I believe the plan currently shows one. The requirements, I believe, are only one handicap parking space per 25 spaces on site.
Right.
But that's a very appropriate comment. We do have a senior cohort of our population, and it's a large percentage of the population, so you very well may be correct, and there's definitely still time to go back and look and see if we can have an additional handicap parking space placed on site.
Thanks, sir.
Question. I'm sorry. Ms. Davis.
I have a couple concerns, mainly crime in the area. I have had some experience with that area, particularly because I owned a pet grooming shop there for 5 years. at the corner of Broadway and Blue Heron, and just behind the BP station. And during the winter months particularly, where there were lots of homeless people, drug addicts, panhandlers, drug dealers, prostitutes loitering around. And I'm not saying it happened every day. There were also arguments and fights. And the police were wonderful. They said, if you're frightened about anything, if someone looks the wrong way, just call. And I did. And they responded quickly. They were wonderful. But what happens is things there happen so quickly that the crime is done, the culprits are gone, and when you're 4 women in a grooming shop, you get really concerned about retribution in the event you call the police all the time. We were always concerned. And then when we went from daylight savings time to Eastern Standard Time in the winter, we were afraid to leave after dark because we didn't leave by ourselves. And I know at the Walgreens they have problems, and a lot of those things don't even happen at night; they happen during the day. And I think that, that's a real concern, and I think it's a beautiful building, and I think the concept is great. But I think that inadvertently it may perpetuate the problem that already exists.
I can definitely understand what you're saying, and it's really difficult to determine what the future will bring. If in fact, development would create additional traffic, which would create additional crime. The way that I see it personally is that the site currently is not only underutilized, but not utilized at all. And the current configuration of the building, it almost has a cave structure underneath it. So, you could be very well correct in that more traffic in the area could perpetuate more crime. Inversely, though, I think that there's going to be a benefit of having it open 24 hours, of having it well lit, of having eyes on the street, sidewalk, parking area, and actually having more activity, especially throughout the night, typically reduces crime. But of course, it's tough to say that now and make that final determination. But that's at least historically what I believe the trend is.
Thank you.
All right. I just want to see if we have questions of the presentation, because I don't want us to go too far off of it. And I think I just might have lost where I wanted to go, because I had a couple questions, and I think it related to if someone else had any questions of the presentation, they can go in the meantime. Mr. Canuti.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the presentation or the staff, but one of the responses from Bauman was the response to the delivery ordinance. And they say that the hours are going to be between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. And this borders on a residential area. So my question is, what's staff opinion of that, and is there a way to restrict deliveries so that as they either come in or leave, they're not going through the residential area?
I think it's something we could discuss 7-Eleven as far as the delivery route through the site. If a specific area was the best point for delivery versus another. There is a requirement that a 6-foot concrete wall has to be built on the east side of the site that's adjacent to the existing properties. So that will help attenuate some of the noise. I definitely understand what you're saying as far as additional noise and deliveries, and I really have to probably have a conversation with 7-Eleven to see what their delivery model is and when the trucks are coming. I'm sure it's a regional approach as well. Absolutely.
I was just reminded that the city has a very strong noise ordinance, and we will meet that. So, in other words, a vehicle may come in, but we cannot violate or exceed the noise ordinance. And staff has spoken with us about and worked with us on that. So we will not violate the noise ordinance. In other words, it will not be excessively loud. But if there is a desire of this board or staff to tweak deliveries, we'll sit down with staff and go over that. 7-Eleven has pretty much said yes to, I think, almost everything that staff has requested.
I guess my point is that if the delivery vehicles are required to exit onto Blue Heron, they're not going through the residential area. If they exit on 27th Street and make a left to US 1, they're not going through the residential area. But if they make a right and they go down that block, they're going through a residential area.
Yeah, I think we'd have to look at both the size of delivery vehicles, frequency, and timing. Something we can discuss further.
Okay.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I bring up that question, because if you have your pointer widget over there, I believe those are the fuel pumps over just to the right, correct? The tanks, excuse me, the tanks. So where would the vacuum area be? Because it says it should be striped.
I believe this is the actual area for the vacuum. This drawing isn't intended to show every aspect. It's really a muscle drawing. Really apply colors to the site plan. The actual plan that you provided in the application itself is this plan. But the vacuum station itself is on the north side of the site here.
Okay, and then the memo describes the screening wall. What's the screening wall? On number 13, it says a separation wall is required in the commercial bus residential. What exactly is that? Because I know we described with the trash refuse as a 6-foot masonry wall.
Right.
Is there any
And
difference?
that's what the comment's actually referring to, the 6-foot wall that would be constructed adjacent to the property east.
So it is a masonry wall, because I mean, I don't know.
Yes, yeah,
just
it won't just be a chain link fence or
Okay.
fence, it will be a masonry wall.
Mr. Cole.
I have a couple questions. Wouldn't it, for noise restriction to the residents, that the plan was flipped, where 7-Eleven, the actual store, would be placed in the back closer to the resident, and the fuel and pump where trucks are going in and out be placed closer to Blue Heron and Broadway? My second question would be, has any other company shown interest in this particular site? And if so, what is that? If so, do we know that?
I'll answer your second question first. To my knowledge, the last tenant of the site was BB&T that took over the site through Bank Atlantic, I believe. And there's been no other development proposals on this site today. The first question, as far as the location of the building and proximity to residential properties, I believe it's really a catch-22, because even if the building was placed here, it may deter some traffic flow and traffic noise. However, there's typically back-of-the-house operations that also result in noise. So we're hoping that the 6-foot masonry wall helps to mitigate to the greatest extent possible. However, with any sort of 24-hour activity, staff is trying to be as mindful as possible about effects from noise and lighting as well.
Any other questions of the presentation from the members? Hearing none, are there any comments? Hearing none, we'll go to public.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the public comments before we continue.
Okay. Absolutely. Margaret Shepard, is this on this item? Okay, you're recognized.
Margaret Shepard, Riviera Beach. We just did our ribbon cutting over to the marina, and the goal is, do we believe in Riviera Beach? I believe in Riviera Beach. And the best thing that can happen to us is that particular site serving us, going to the beach or wherever, a lot of parents, single parents like me, this is a godsend. We will be able to pick up whatever hot dogs or knickknacks we need. And I believe in 7-Eleven. I had my first store in Arizona. And in Arizona, that's all you saw in just about every corner was a 7-Eleven. And they are clean stores, friendly stores. And I think that we're going to enjoy this coming into our city. It's going to send foot traffic on Broadway. Also with the new marina coming, we're going to have extra traffic coming into our city. And we have to accommodate a cold drink. We have to accommodate sandwiches. We have to understand, we have to accommodate the public. People now will be coming from Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and everybody is running. This store will enhance our city. My granddaughter just asked me a very good question. Nana, will it send the other gas station out of business? I said no. You have to think about Publix. You're thinking about Walgreens. You're thinking about Save-A-Lot. You're thinking about Winn-Dixie. They're always busy. We need the business. And with that, I'm saying, let us approve this particular project. I'm excited about it. And I think that this will make people coming to the city know that they can pinpoint where they can stop and get something very quick. Everybody's in a hurry nowadays. Everybody want to get in and get out. And 7-Eleven, it's a quick get in and a quick get out. You're talking about people loitering around. You have people loitering around the ice cream stand. I mean, you can't stop that. But I think, and I believe in my police, that they're going to be there to protect us. And I just think that we cannot have a closed mind. It's time to say, it's time for my city to move forward. And with that, I hope that you guys will take this under consideration and allow the public to really feed into bringing something anew to our city. And I think the 7-Eleven is one of the best things that we could think about. Will it bring jobs to our residents? That's the one question. Will there be jobs for our residents? Not bringing people in, but for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shepard. Summer Shepard Thomas.
Good evening, my name is Summer Shepard Thomas, and I would like to say that this is a good idea. It's open 24 hours. Like my grandmother said, it's bringing more money into the city. Instead of going away to Lake Park to get your hot dogs and slushies and stuff, the residents and tourists are able to be right there on the street where beaches and stuff is and get their things that they need. The security cameras, I think more security cameras by the Dairy Bill, it will help because there's a lot of stuff going on late at night. By the extra security cameras, it will help stop a lot of stuff that's going on. It brings more jobs and it's open all the time, 24 hours. So please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Woods.
Deborah Woods, Riviera Beach, Florida. When I first heard about this 7-Eleven project, something just leaped within me. I grew up in this community. I left this community. I was gone for over 30 years. I've returned to this community. And I came here tonight to lend my voice to the 7-Eleven project, to find individuals who are vested in this community, to find people who have come forth and been willing to participate and cooperate with the leaders and what they're asking us to do to bring businesses into this community. Businesses are our future, and it is important for us to move this city forward. So I just wanted to come forward and say that corner is sitting there. It's been sitting there for over a year. My background is finance and accounting, and I'm certainly interested in any properties in this city, just not sitting there, but generating revenue that will make our community better. I lend my voice in support of this project. I hope you will give consideration to it and approve it. And I thank you for allowing me this time.
Thank you. Scott Evans?
Good evening, Scott Evans. I'm the Planning and Development Director for Riviera CRA. I just wanted to let you know that the redevelopment agency is very much in support of this project. We are, as you know, actively pursuing redevelopment of the entire Broadway corridor. We're very pleased with the new landscaping median project that is coming to a close. In conjunction with that, we are working to bury all of the overhead utility lines along Broadway. And this particular owner has been very helpful in helping us to identify an easement location for that underground project. So I want to thank them for their cooperation. Additionally, this project is really a first test of our new code, which I would have to thank you for your positive support of. When we adopted the new code in November of 2013, it changed the zoning and applied new land development regulations to all of the Broadway corridor, all of the CRA actually. And that new code tried to rethink how we do development. Rather than having, it's designed to create a much more pedestrian-friendly environment, as staff has said previously. Because when you have parking lots that are located along the street and the buildings set far back, that creates larger unsafe areas. And when this plan first came in, I believe they had I did see a prototype concept that was based on that old type of thinking. And I would have to commend the 7-Eleven and the development group for working within the city's regulations to create a development that meets our new code and meets our new desire for the area, which is to put the building closer to the street. So I would commend them for that. And also they brought a project that looks quite good. And that we are also the property owner from directly across the street. The CRA has purchased that block that extends, it's on the west side of Broadway, and it extends from Blue Heron North to 27th Street. And so we are in the process of redeveloping that block, and so we are happy to see that the other side of the street is being redeveloped. I don't know if you saw when you drove by today, but some of our new palm trees have gone up in our small pocket park that's going up on the corner. And then we're working with our architect to create a new facade program for the Cash America building and for the Dairy Bell. So we're looking to see 2 new changes to both corners on this project. So we're in support of it, and thank you for your consideration.
Scott, if you will, speaking of the Cash America, if you don't mind hanging around after we finish this presentation, and I guess the election of our new officers, I want to ask you about that Broadway corridor on record. But related to the easement, were you guys involved with the whole, I guess, the planning phase of the 7-Eleven coming here? Because I know I heard you mention the abandonment of the easement, and there was something in.
We try to stay actively involved in the redevelopment concepts for all the properties. Now, this site plan application is directly with the city, but they have shared the plans with us, and of course they're implementing codes that we work together with them to create. The easement, we are working with all property owners who are affected along the Broadway corridor to try and locate easements that would allow us to bury all of those overhead lines. So we first started communicating with BB&T because they were the owner of this property, and then when we found out that it was changing hands and there was a new development coming, we began to work with them, and they were helpful, actually more so than BB&T, in finding a spot on the property.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Chip Armstrong.
Thank you and good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the public. My name is Chip Armstrong. My address is 4240 Delmore Court. That's in the city of Riviera Beach. For a living, I'm a commercial realtor. I'm director of sales, commercial sales for the Kai's Company of the Palm Beaches. My office is in Palm Beach Gardens. I sell development sites for people like 7-Eleven, Walgreens, CVS, multifamily developers, publics, and others. I would urge you to approve this proposed site plan and special exception. I can tell you that 7-Eleven is probably one of the best corporate citizens you could find to come here. It is the perfect use for that site, which is the intersection of two state roads, which has a lot of traffic. The idea that Ms. Davis had about highest and best use is interesting because highest and best use is not defined or part of the code. What the code does is say, this is what we would like to see there, and offers a broad spectrum. The market, developers, capital, they decide what the highest and best use is. It's always been my experience, the highest and best use is who's willing to buy the property, who's willing to redevelop it, who's willing to go through the process to work with staff, to work through any problems there may be, file an application, and build the building. I would say this is highest and best use because of that. And as a professional commercial realtor that does for a living, that is a perfect site for a gas station. Because of what I do and I live here, I also am concerned about crime, especially in that area. And Ms. Davis, I know exactly what you're talking about. I buy shoes and have my shoes fixed, and my wife's purses fixed in that leather shop that's in that same strip mall. And I've gone there to meet the owner of that store at 5 o'clock in the morning because I'm going out of town to drop something off. And there's people sleeping there. He tries to rouse them. He tries to get them away. The interesting thing about this project is with the lighting and the cameras, people do not like to get their picture taken if they're homeless and sleeping on a curb. You will not see this here. People that do criminal activity do not like their picture being taken. You can ask any criminal defense attorney, he would not like to cross-examine a piece of video. So I would urge you to support this. I think it is a great use of the site. I think it is perfect for our city, and I thank you for your time.
May I ask you a question?
Ms. Brooks, your acknowledgement.
Absolutely. Oh, just one more thing. In the spirit of disclosure, I have no financial interest in this property.
Okay.
I am not a party to this transaction. Just met these two gentlemen tonight.
Okay, still have a question for you.
Okay.
You said your office is located in Palm Beach Gardens. Have you had any inquiries about 7-Eleven in Palm Beach Gardens?
No.
Okay.
Of course not.
No. The sites for Palm Beach Gardens in Palm Beach Gardens where you can see 7-Eleven. They're much larger. There's a CVS that's going up, a new CVS. There are quite a few other projects. I can tell you that I have properties listed on that corridor, and there's been quite a bit of interest lately. There's two people that are working through some site plans to come up with a plan. It's not just buy the property and build something there. I mean, ultimately what they want to do, they do this to make money. So, thank you.
Mayor Brown.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Brown, Riviera Beach. I came in today because I was anticipating being involved in two more other meetings. But when I came in, I had questions about this project, and I think I asked some very extensive questions about the safety, the exit doors, how safe it is. This is what this plan does. And I would say that the development down on that corridor there, we will have extensive traveling up and down the Broadway corridor, because even in West Palm Beach on Broadway, they are anticipating on building those high rises. And this road here, Broadway corridor will run straight through, all the way through US Highway 1. And I would like to say to BP, if any of those representatives are here, it's good to have competition. It's good to have competition. That makes us as a city know that you're on your job and you're serving your city. I was listening to the bus stop. I would like to make a recommendation that the bus stop be enclosed. Why? Because of the rain of those people that's standing out there.
and I do not want those people to be wet. So if this is approved, my recommendation is, since you're going to take responsibility of that bus stop, to have it enclosed. The garbage bins, is that the masonry will close those garbage containers also? I do not want to see that garbage when I ride through that. I asked about the safety, Ms. Davis, also too, because that was my concern too. I asked how much lighting, what safety measures that you would put in place for this particular store, and they assured me that they would have that precautionary measure. You as a board, once when you approve anything in this city here, you stipulate the guarantee on your approval to whoever you allow to come in and do business in the city here, so that they can be good citizens and good partners with this city. And it will be monitored, he said 24/7. Am I correct? 24/7. You make sure that those points are covered. Ms. Davis, I have to agree with you. If we approve this, you got 2 gas stations there. You have 2 right down here on Old Dixie here. So this city here is better than that. I do look at, and I do want to believe that this city is better than just allowing gas stations and stuff to come in this city here. But on that corridor there, that take into consideration, we will build up that corridor there. And we want you as a board to hold these people who we allow to come into our city to do business responsible as being good citizens in this city here. No, I do not want any more gas stations in this city here. Thank you.
Bonnie Larson.
Good evening, Pam. Comments I'm going to make tonight come from the fact that my family has owned property there for 70 years. Way before my time, I'm going to say 70 years. So I know this property very well. I can tell you from experience that all during the night, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, there are the police. Please go home. You hear them yelling back and forth. You see them wandering around. We don't go out at night. You don't go out in that area at night. You just don't. A convenience store is going to draw in more of those things. They said it'll be pedestrian friendly. Oh, yes, it will. Because the police have said, I said, you know, that guy's here, you told him to leave 10 minutes ago. He's back. And they said, oh, he said he's going to Walgreens because Walgreens is open 24 hours a day. So that's their excuse. I'm going to Walgreens. Well, then the police come back. We haven't been to Walgreens yet. So having something else come in, that's our major corner. You know, we have to be very concerned about safety. And I see that the masonry wall, they're very careful to say that it will go along that residential building right there. That residential building, it looks like Fort Knox. It's that way for a reason. It's not that way because it looks good or people want to have it that way. It's that way for a reason. The masonry wall, if this goes through, needs to also come down and go right up against those businesses. Continue the masonry wall all the way down to Blue Heron. All the way down. You need to protect the businesses on the other side of that property because who's going to want to go and do their business in there? Like you said, you have the shop up. That's on the south side, at least on the north side. Who want to feel safe when you go in those businesses? Much better to have that masonry wall, make that a condition, to go all the way to Blue Heron. As far as ingress and egress from Blue Heron, out of the question. Out of the question. If you're coming from the west, you're headed east, you cannot turn into that property because there are 2 double lines there, you're too close to the intersection. The only way you can get in on the Blue Heron side is if you're coming from Singer Island and you've got to turn in there real sharp and you're right at the intersection. So forget the Blue Heron side as an ingress egress. It also looks very, very close. It looks like it's only about 15 feet between the property line and the building from what I saw on the plans. And it says here that we have to remember, it said 7-foot sidewalk reserved for future use. Think about the property right across the street, that where they just tore down that building. That was the property. The building was right up against the sidewalk, and they were worried about accidents right there. So let's not do the same thing here. You said you want it to be pedestrian friendly. We don't want it to be pedestrian friendly enough that somebody gets hit or somebody gets hurt right there. Oh, geez, there's just too much to say here in 30 seconds. But
go ahead and indulge us.
Excuse me?
Go ahead and indulge us. Go.
Oh, okay. Okay, it also mentioned that, 6-foot masonry wall. It says here, a Florida Power Light will locate electric transformers for the underground utilities. But they said tonight there's no underground utilities there, and they're just finishing up on Broadway. And they said, no, there's not going to be underground Now, Mr. Scott Evans just said there would be, but earlier in the evening they said it was from Blue Heron south. There's no underground in that area. It says here underground, okay. Electric transformers, where's that going to be? I didn't see that on the map. Let me just finish. So I'm going to do the whole thing here. Okay, the glare of the lights. Yes, it is going to affect properties on all sides there. Compatibility. The proposed project is compatible with surrounding parcels. Well, it's compatible with another gas station. So, is that compatible? We have a not a 7-Eleven, but we have a little convenience store right there on Blue Heron and Avenue E. We have a lot of convenience stores on Avenue E, so we have enough. We have enough convenience stores in the area. And like I said, my big concern is safety there, because those people are walking there, I can tell you, all night long. The police can only do so much. Off-street parking and loading areas. Anyway, I believe tonight the gentlemen who are here, they need to make it clear, are they with the company 7-Eleven Inc., which is just a name of a company which is hoping to buy that BB&T facility, or are they the actual 7-Eleven? I think they're a separate corporation. And I'd like you to ask them that question again. You asked the question, is your plan here contingent, is it contingent upon the sale to 7-Eleven? And they said they don't know. They know. They know. Please ask them again. That's being disingenuous to say, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Ward.
Good evening, Gerald Ward, 2135 Broadway. I have more than 3 minutes, I would bet you, but I'll try and rapid fire through it, Mr. Chair. The only action I think you have to take tonight is your hammer, deferral. You've got too many unanswered questions. You've already scoped out a number. You're not in a position to find all of the 8 provisions of 31-62 of the code, which is the special exception. This project, in reality, you heard from the applicant and the board representative, and all they touted in large part were state and lower level government requirements. It's not what you need to hear for your special exception compliance. Special exception is a big deal. You need to ask questions. The status of the CRA review. You heard Mr. Evans' gumflap up here, but why wasn't there a written proposal evaluation by the CRA? The staff departments. Last month you had the water slide and you had copies of all of the staff departments of the city. Where is the application? That is an absolute requirement for backup for this material. You've always had that. That would have answered some of the questions that Ms. Lawson and you've scoped out. I don't find a copy of the affidavit for the law 31-4C2D. You must have that to proceed tonight. Number 3, there are 3 state roads there, 2 adjacent and 1 across the street. So there is a significant state involvement, but you don't have any of the state responses in writing. You had a couple representations today. When CDEC came in September of 2008 on a Tuesday workshop, and 8 days later came with a resolution that generated this crazy median system that everybody now begins to hate, you see how things happen in short time around this city. Number 4, where is the evaluation in relation to the citizen charrette of January 30th of 2008? That plan specifically addressed gas station development. There is no analysis provided in your backup. Number 5, one of the big deals of special exception is ingress and egress. This intersection needs a right turn lane from State Road A1A, Blue Heron, north to State Road 5, Broadway. Number two, when she came with this plan, she promised that the on-street parking would be accommodated when anybody redeveloped any parcel along this street. Therefore, you need to have, for this whole block, the on-street parking accommodated. Traffic study, not provided. That would give you a truck study within the facility, which I think you scoped out. Why is the cross-access still open? It was open because Mullet built the bank and the shopping center. They're separate now. The corner cliff at 27th Street. Why is it not being required? The bus stop contract. You really need to see what's in that contract before you go approve what's in here. Otherwise, they'll be back saying, well, we can't do it. I'll give you a copy of a photo for the record that shows the trash that was given to me from Monday morning, incorporated in the record. So trash provisions for the bus stop need to be accommodated. Two small items, sir. Without the application, you can't really do what several people have asked about, coordination. And lastly, how we go with free coffee to buy off city staff is beyond me. That you were out, sir, when this came
Let's not
up.
make those assertions. Mr. Art Cobb, is this for this item or is this for public comments?
Yes, sir.
You're recognized.
Mr. Chair, board, and citizens that are attending this meeting tonight, thank you. I have to be very honest with you, Mr. Chair. I really came for public comments,
You're recognized for both.
thank you very much. The reason I came for public comments first is because I wanted to stop by and say hello to all of you. As you well know, I served on this board for about 3 years, and it's probably one of the most gracious experiences I had, particularly because I spent 10 years in planning and zoning in the city and over 20 years in the city total, and I'm going on my 45th year of being associated with Riviera Beach, so it's a proud moment to be here to say, hi to you guys. Okay? I understand the difficulty it is to have to challenge these type of petitions. Obviously, I didn't know about the petition. I found out about this petition. It was last evening I was going through my 50 texts and emails, and I had a hit from Singer Island Association saying, this petition will be here tonight by P&Z, and encourage everybody to, support this petition. I have to say that I do support downtown Corner. As a member of the Planning and Zoning Board, I was a member and vice chair-elect, but I never served the elect because I'm a term limit advocate, and I really move on, and I moved on to another authority and agency. But I do support downtown Corner development. I have to say that I know 7-Eleven, as far as a corporate partner is concerned, for many years. As a director of a major race company, I served 80% of 7-Elevens across the state of Florida, so I understand 7-Eleven. And as you well know, 7-Eleven is one of the oldest corporate citizen there is when it comes to convenience stores. And I have to give that support. But I have to say that I'm not an advocate of special exceptions. It's hard to follow Mr. Ward and Ms. Larson, because those are two people that I put a lot of confidence and evidence in when I was on the board, because once they came with their request to address the petitions, I took that very seriously, because they do their homework, no question about it. Obviously, I had an opportunity to look back at some of our planning elements, and I did find the same thing, some things that Mr. Ward is saying about. We're trying to lay out a benchmark for downtown and Marina. Obviously, some of that has changed since I was on the board, but I thought that these type of situations, especially with special exceptions, I say again, I'm not advocating, but I know what a special exception is an element of the planning process. I understand that. And when you're trying to redevelop an area like downtown, like Broadway, that there's a lot of non-conforming condition that exist, you have to have some type of special exceptions or some type of exception in order to fulfill your goal to redevelop your area. Riviera Beach is an old community, the old infrastructure. And I do say, and I say to myself all the time, active in planning zoning anymore. Unless you demolish something or tear something down, you're going to have a very difficult time trying to redevelop these areas. I sat next to, I sat next to Secretary Wolf at Florida FDOT, and he and I collaborate all the time about Riviera Beach, State Road 710, State 11, and 12. And he knows how I feel about the planning aspect. Because he said to me a couple of weeks ago as we was at an executive planning meeting in Lauderdale, is that, Broadway looks like it is, Mr. Cobb, because that's what they wanted. Well, you're an agency, the local planning agencies, I think, are going to have to get a little more involved in the planning aspect. In the city, as you well know, your petition tonight goes to the city council, so the city council has the right to override you. But somehow there's going to have to be some communication between both elements in order to see this downtown corridor. I do support downtown corridor. I came to say hello. I'm not going to take any more time because some of the same questions that you asked in the board was some of the same questions I would ask as I was sitting where Ms. James is sitting now. And I ask tough questions because I have 10 years of planning experience from inspector to assistant director of planning zoning, so I understand the process. But I understand too that you're trying to fulfill your responsibilities as a planning agency. Why don't you go on record, what you feel is what you should send back to city council. So I say again, Happy New Year to you. I haven't seen you, I've been trying to get here, you've been, haven't been having some meetings, and I came to one meeting, I had the wrong time, so I just want to come stop by and say hello. So good luck to you.
Thanks so much. Before we go to board comments, is there any other member of the public that chooses to make a comment? You'll be acknowledged, but you need to fill out a comment card.
I didn't know I had it, sorry.
You're recognized, but please fill out a comment card before you leave.
I will. Good evening, Board. Thank you for your time. My name is Carl Columbia. I'm one of the co-owners of the BP on Broadway in Blue Heron. Thank you for your time. I'm not going to state a lot of the obvious. There are numerous gas stations, convenience stores in the area. I'm going to address a few issues that Mr. Richards brought up. We're a small business owner. Myself and my partner was in the back. We take pride in the store. We bought the business almost 8 years ago. We bought it from corporate America, big corporation, BP. When we took the store over, they had about 24 code violations currently active in the city. My partner and I corrected all of them. We brought everything up to code. And we've been running our business as a small business ever since. We know a lot of our customers by first name. I'd like to talk about crime, security. My background is I'm a retired police officer from New York City. I was wondering if the managers from 7-Eleven are going to have any kind of background in security. We deal with it every day. The crime, they go from our gas station, the drug addicts, the homeless, the emotionally disturbed people that are out on the streets, the homeless people. We deal with them every day. We chase them from our property, they go to Walgreens. They go back from Walgreens, come back to our property. I mean, it's an ongoing problem. They look for cars that are unlocked. They look for a woman's pocketbook they can grab. They look for something to steal. They're people of opportunity. By thinking that 7-Eleven has the $20 million video system, I have 16 cameras in my store. We're well lit. Walgreens has cameras. We were held up 4 months ago about 7:30 at night by gunpoint. So to think this problem is going to go away is not being realistic. 27th Street is probably one of the higher crime streets in the city. Now, I mean, you're going to get this traffic. We're going to have a new park across the street on the corner of Blue Heron that probably the police are going to have a hard time taking the homeless out of the park. So, I mean, they buy beer, they walk across, they're intoxicated, they're just creatures of habit. That's one thing. Another issue that I want to talk about is an environmental issue. Now, I know Walgreens has an ongoing environmental issue. I know people on the board are aware of that. Supposedly, I was brought to my attention there was a containment wall that was put in during the construction of the road work on Blue Heron and Broadway. When that road was open, one day in my station, I almost shut off the emergency valve because the smell of gasoline was so prevalent. Now, who's to say, once you start digging for tanks across the street, okay, there could be a plume, any kind of destruction of the earth. Who's going to guarantee on this board the safety of the residents in the city? With the water table the way it is in the city, who's going to guarantee the safety of the drinking water? There's a lot of issues here besides just my income, my partner's income, and all the other businesses in the area it's going to affect. We're talking about safety concerns. Anybody in this 7-Eleven can guarantee the safety of the residents in the city? I don't think so, because once you start digging, nobody can guarantee what's going to happen. It's an unknown. And I want to thank you for your time. And there's a lot of businesses in this area that's going to be affected by cooperation. One more thing I'd like to bring up. I found it amusing that the city is requiring a 2-year landscaping bond from 7-Eleven. I wonder if that's because, if the reason behind that is because the track record of major corporations and how they take care of their property. I just find it kind of amusing that, a 2-year bond. I think that's because they know what happens. This is not, people are not vested in their businesses. They're not owner-operators. It's just a corporation.
All right, can you do me a favor and fill out a comment card before you...
Are they back in?
Yes, before you sit down. Any other members of the public choosing to make a comment? Seeing none.
Good evening, sir. My English is not good, but I want to say something.
What's your name?
My name is Nuruddin Sheikh. I own the Chevron gas station on the corner of Dixie and Boulevard.
Okay, and if you will you also fill out a comment card when you finish? Okay, go ahead.
I didn't get the point. First point, should I do the new gas station over there or not? It doesn't matter if 7-Eleven or somebody is doing over there, because still if 7-Eleven is today is over there, they might leave tomorrow. It's a lot of things is happen. BP is in the market, they might leave tomorrow. So we need to think first, we're going to make a new gas station here or not. Then we're going to think who is good, 7-Eleven or somebody else. If you see the other city, like Palm Beach Gardens, West Palm Beach, Royal Palm Beach, then go the North Palm Beach, nobody wants to make any more new gas station. If you go to the city, talk with them, they say no gas station, because there's a lot of problem on the gas station. They come today in the market, they might leave tomorrow. They might close tomorrow, then we'll have a big problem. We have the 2 more gas stations on that street. One is Hayes gas station, and other one I think is a Mobile gas station. They are closed. And Mobile has the environmental problem. So somebody try to fix it. So first thing we need to think, don't think about the 7-Eleven. They came today, they might leave tomorrow. Nobody can guarantee. But we need to think first, we're going to make a new gas station or not. So I don't support the new gas station is around here. And it's a very busy corner, a lot of problem will be happen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? This is, you recognize. And also, if you want to fill out a card for me.
Me? From me?
Yes.
Yeah, I will. After I finish or now?
Come now, please. Just for the record, so that when they transcribe the minutes, we can make sure we have your name correct.
My name is Paul Chowdhury, and I own a little gas station over there on 13th Street and Broadway called Marathon, Palm Beach Port Marathon. We are all individually owned people here, like Carl and the gentleman, me. We have one store. We have family, 4 or 5 children. We support ourselves. We work 10 to 12 hours, 7 days a week, including my wife. We work to support the family. These giant corporations, they come here, they push us down with their pricing. They sell product with, like a gasoline. They sell it much less than what they pay sometimes just to push us out of the business. Then they can have more money, number one. 7-Eleven is always buying and selling their gas station. They will go and build and things, and they will bundle up 10, 15, 20 of them and sell it. If that's the purpose they're in market, they're going to kill our family. They want to kill us family. We are very little people. We are hand-to-mouth people. We work 7-Eleven Corporation directors, the people these guys are going to build that building, make $1 million out of that, go home and debt their Mercedes. We don't have that luxury. So if you want to give them the approval, go ahead. Put a nail on the coffin, make it over, get it over with. Last year and a half, all the construction on Broadway almost shut out of business. Some people went out of business. The property I am, it's owned by Viking. That property was closed for 4 years. Nobody wanted to go there. Finally, we had some cards. We put some money all our savings, lifetime savings, we put in the building to renovate it. We chase all the homeless people, all the drug addict, all the prostitutes, still every day. Every day. If you look at the police record, every day, we call 3-4 times for those people that threat us. They said, well, they're going to kick our butt, they're going to kill us. Still, we take life in our hand every morning when we walk in 6 o'clock, at 6:30 at night. When we leave, we worry about our employees, that they can get shot, they can get killed. That's how we are supporting this town, the city. Now, if you want us to leave, I will leave. I'll leave because I have no choice. I'll take a job somewhere else to support my family. Let 7-Eleven build their corporate headquarters here. If that's what they want and you guys give them approval, go ahead. Might as well, be over with. We worked last 3.5 years. I grown 10 years older working in this store. Now they want to come in, push us out, and they will. You know that how they go. Their price is always low, and also they go and they corner the whole market. They all go to Marlboro and tell them that we have 100 store, 500 store. If you don't give us a special discount, we're not going to buy from you. We're going to quit buying from. So they have a purchase power like Walmart. So if you want to bring a Walmart, might as well bring a Walmart there, not 7-Eleven. It'll be even better for us to go out of business. I thank you, everybody, and that's all I can say.
I'll fill out a card. Is that okay?
Yes, you're right.
My name is Chris Monterano. I'm Carl's friend. Thank you for letting me speak. I work my gas station. I just came here after an 8-hour shift. I moved 50 people off the property today, smoking joints, crack in the car wash. Is it not understanding what's really happening? Is it working? I get it. But you don't see what's happening on the corner, all right? That area will be the new area for prostitution, drug dealing, theft. It is an opportunity to rob. Is an opportunity to undermine. Forget about competition. I got a gas station in West Palm with 5 stations around me. I destroy all of them. You know why? Because I work 10 hours a day at my station. You are not getting. You think that 7-Eleven, the guy's worth $500 million. The guy's working behind the counter.
Let's just make it about.
No, I understand, sir. I'm making it about.
Person.
Sir, I understand.
Okay.
I'm making it about this, sir. He's not getting behind the counter. I'm behind the counter. Okay? I'm accountable for everything that happens on the property. They're not. I will go around to every store where there is not an owner, and I will pick apart those stores. Because if you don't have vested a couple of $1 million in those corners, like me and my partner did, then how are you going to, what motivation is it for you to stay there and work? We have stayed here through 2 mayors. We've helped everybody we can in that area. We know families, everything. This would be a tremendous detriment. You will make the city worse off crime-wise. It will be such a cluster, okay, of crime. You won't even know how to handle it. Gas stations are not good for crime. Secondly, somebody's going to be responsible for that contamination. Somebody. You can't dig in that ground. You cannot open that ground unless 7-Eleven is willing to take the responsibility. My gas station, BP, is responsible. Marathon is responsible, and Mobil is responsible, and Chevron is responsible, and all the gas stations in town. We're under the Florida statute, okay? They're not. They open that ground, they leave, Riviera Beach will be, you'll have a contaminated site on 3 corners. Thank you very much.
And I'll remind you, please fill out the card.
Of course, sir, no problem.
Seeing no other members from the public that chooses to comment, I kind of want to go to our board and remind our members that we're looking at the planning and zoning aspect, not so much of competition. So let's be mindful that I do want to allow anybody that has a stake in it to address their concerns, but as far as the planning perspective, we need to address it as far as planning. The floor is open. Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair. I think because the entity did not provide the business failure plan at this time and other concerns by the police department, you may want to table this particular item. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. James, any others?
I just wanted to know, I know it's customary to have notification in the newspaper, but for the other private property owners in the area, I would like to know if they were noticed, and if so, how.
I did not get a notice.
Staff, the question is for staff.
The Planning and Zoning Board meeting and this project was advertised by the Palm Beach Post, and also everyone within 300 feet of this side, 2600 Broadway, were notified via U.S. mail with the notice of the project and location.
You said within 2600 Broadway, what about on 27th
300
Street?
feet, within 300 feet of 2600 Broadway.
Okay. You said by U.S. mail?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the other part is just a statement. The chairperson was very gracious by allowing people in the audience to come up and speak, even though they did not submit comment cards. And I understand why that is, because a lot of people are here, and it's just an observation that I'm making, because if he hadn't put that out there, I wonder would anybody have said anything, all the other people that did come up and made comments that did not submit cards. So those are my comments.
Any other members?
Yes.
Ms. Davis.
You know, Riviera Beach has just accomplished a 4-year battle for the marina project to break ground with the goal of making Riviera Beach a destination. And every decision that we make on this board, we have to keep that in mind. Using 7-Eleven as an example, displacing 7-Eleven open 24 hours a day with 12 gas pumps at this corner promote what we're trying to achieve. Is this a business that the city residents and the local businesses need at this particular location? We have to consider what types of businesses we want to be in the downtown core district. I looked up the word core, and a core is a hub or a center of something. And right now we have as our center a gas station with a food mart, a drugstore with a food mart, 2 small shopping areas with a printer, tax preparer, dentist, bait store, bank, small motel, and a scaled down Publix market. You can go to the shoe repair, to the gas station, to the bank, to the drugstore, and the grocery store. These are the types of businesses that create a sense of community and provide value to our community. In less than a 2-mile radius, there are 10 gas stations with food marts. And that excludes Walgreens. If you go west, less than 2 miles to Old Dixie, there are 3 gas stations with food marts, and that doesn't include the standalone food marts. From Broadway to Blue Heron, there are 4 gas stations and markets, including a 7-Eleven. Broadway to Blue Heron to Singer Island, 2 gas stations with food markets, one being a BP with 10 pumps, and there are 2 standalone markets, including a 7-Eleven. Broadway South, 1 mile, is a large Marathon gas station with a food mart. However, across the street was a food mart that went out of business. And that's one of the things I'm somewhat concerned about, because, as was indicated, a lot of these businesses are homegrown businesses that are owned and or operated by local families. It's their bread and butter. And we have a corporation, so we have local families versus corporation. This isn't even a franchise that a local person would buy. This is a corporate store. I think someone likened it to opening a Walmart next door. If we're looking at a location, if we're looking at this location as a hub, the corner is real important. It's a north, south, east, and west corridor to and from Riviera Beach and Singer Island. What statement does a 7-Eleven make at that particular location about Riviera Beach at this particular entry point? We just spent millions of dollars refurbishing and beautifying Broadway and Singer Island. And just because 7-Eleven fits into our comprehensive plan doesn't mean it's right for this area and for what we're trying to achieve in the future. We look at our downtown core districts, and we should look at our downtown core district and all other districts in sort of a group, like a portfolio of properties, not a single property that we pluck a business in here and a business in there because they want to come to us, and just because it fits into the comprehensive plan. 7-Eleven at this location does not represent, in my opinion, the destination and the type of community we're trying to create. It's not a business that draws businesses like a bank or a Publix market. It does represent, however, a pass-through type of business. Where are we going? We're going to 7-Eleven on our way to someplace else. What do we get at 7-Eleven? Cigarettes, beer, sometimes sandwiches, coffee. But we're always on our way, or a cold drink. We're always on our way someplace else. I think it doesn't build having a 7-Eleven, and I like 7-Elevens, and I've been to tons of them, but in this particular district, it doesn't build that sense of community. And Riviera Beach is a giant, and we're awakening, and people recognize that. There are more businesses moving into the city. And they recognize also that the property values are very low here. There's been a lot of activity on Blue Heron. The Goodway shopping center, that little Goodway where my dog shop used to be, that's been sold. The Co-America Bank has been sold by an 81-year-old man from Lubbock, Texas. And even he sees the future of Riviera Beach and the success. And I think proper planning and zoning is the only key to our future. And I can just say thank you for your attention, and I would support not approving this project. Thank you.
Members, any other members?
Yeah.
You recognize Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, this is mostly for staff. I'm surprised we didn't see the traffic study, the full portfolio of comments from all of the various departments, and the application, which is usually attached to every packet that we do get. And I'd also like to that someone mentioned the issue of contamination on the property, and I think we need to get a better understanding of that also on whose responsibility that is. Is it 7-Eleven, the owner of the property, the city? If everybody bails, what happens? So based on that, I think that we need some additional information on this. So, no other comments.
Ms. Brooks?
Good evening. The only comment that I have mirrors Mr. Kennedy, the application, and when we had those little small daycares coming to it, expand, they had to complete an application. That was a special exception, so I was concerned that we didn't get an application with this packet. Also, the department, all the comments by the department for special exception that we had with the electrified fences and all the other things that we've had brought before us, we always had department head comments or whatever recommendation, and that wasn't in the packet, so that kind of concerned me. My other concern was I'm just not sure of the ownership contingency. That kind of, it's just that I'm not clear on the ownership. I know that it's owned by someone, and the contingency that maybe they don't know if it's gonna. I'm just concerned about that. That has me a little bit worried because
Yeah, that's what we do.
Chair, just to respond to both Mr. Community's comments previously and Ms. Brooks. As far as the application, 7-Eleven absolutely filled out an application. The oversight, including it, was my oversight. I'll take responsibility for that. The application was filled out completely. It included an age and authorization form. The information was submitted, so I'll take responsibility for that. As far as the questions and comments from departments and staff, the format is different, being that it's in the memo or letter from Bowman Consulting. However, that itemized each comment and provided a header for the department that generated the comments and also response to the comments. So the format appears different than some of the questions and answers that you've received previously for other projects, but this does, however, provide the staff questions and comments.
May I follow up on it? So the consultant company basically worked on this with staff, or how did it work with the Bowman? I mean, I'm still trying to understand it as well.
Well, yes. What they did in order to respond to all the staff comments in one formalized manner, they gathered all the questions that were generated and they put them into this format. And that's why you see within the letter itself, the first one has the header planning and zoning, followed by questions number 1, 2, 3, etc. You can follow that to the next page or the following page that refers to the police department comments. So all the staff questions and comments were provided here. Again, it's just a different format, so it's not the typical departmental memo format. However, all the information was here.
Can I make a comment on that?
You recognize Mr. Canuti?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between seeing the actual comments signed by the various departments as opposed to getting, without being disrespectful, maybe a sanitized version of it. So I think that's important for us to get the raw data from the departments, as we've done have seen in the past, so that we can make our judgment of it. So that's no other question.
Thank you. Mr. Cole, you recognize?
Listening to some of the community tonight, I have some comments and some concerns. The masonry wall that was brought up, if this is to go forward, I would like to see it in addition to be extended to the businesses. Comments that were made were like Blue Heron, the turn-in from Blue Heron. It's always been there, so that's not too much of a concern for me in any type of development that may develop that particular site. One of the comments that I like as far as 7-Eleven is a little bit more open, with comments where someone is going to the beach, someone can stop into 7-Eleven and get more product. Yes. Questions I need to need answered is this contingent or passing it contingent to the sale of it? Curb access. That hasn't been fully answered as far as sidewalks and selective parking. Application, I do have concerns about the application, why it wasn't a part of this, and it has been answered. As far as also state documents, why aren't they a part of this process? Some concerns were brought up about digging. If there will always be digging if there's going to be a development in that site. I'm not against development, but yes, there are gas stations that are close by, and they're going to be digging. So regardless, there needs to be some safety precautions. My question is, why do we need a new gas station as far as an additional gas station in Riviera Beach? And the most important one, who is responsible? The responsibility of 7-Eleven. Are they responsible if there is any contamination of water spill, such as BP or Shell or anything? That's an important question to me. My concern or my gut is that we probably should postpone this until we get all those answers, or maybe bring some of those applications in front of us.
Thank you. Choose to speak, Mr. Little.
Mr. Chairman, most of the concerns and questions have been asked by my colleagues. But I am concerned about the rebuilding on Broadway, Blue Heron, Belvedere. I want to see some developments coming in. And if 7-Eleven is going to start it, and the other people in the county going to see this, they're going to come on Broadway. I want to see a downtown Broadway. I want to see some retail stores like Sears, Macy's, other places like that. Not those particular names, but some development like that. I would like to see a hotel on Broadway. You know, when I get ready to go eat in the afternoon and I don't feel like cooking, I have to go to Palm Beach Garden. I have to go to West Palm Beach, or McDonald's, or Burger King. There is no restaurants on Broadway. If we get some developments going now, at 7-Eleven, people are going to start noticing, hey, it's time for us to move on Broadway. We've been trying to do this since 2002. And here it is 2014. And we are still here bickering about somebody coming in because of the gas station involved with the 7-Eleven. You know, the idea what people brought up tonight, there's going to be a lot of kids going and coming to the beach. That would be a nice place to get some refreshments to take. There'll be some grocery shopping there. We're going to see the citizens on St. Island. Everybody's not going to public. They just want a switch place to go in and out. So we need to start thinking. Are we ready to start rebuilding Broadway? And if this is one of the developments that's going to help us get started, let's get started. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a few things. I think that's why it's important, and I don't really have any limits on letting anyone speak, because I think it's all about thoughtful dialogue and just hearing some of the concerns of some people allow me the opportunity to sit up here and just ponder and think about, how it affects them. I'm not, as much as I don't like to be challenged sometimes, I think that's best. So competition didn't move me at all. Some of the concerns about, it's bad for our competition. Well, that's life. That's America. We're built on competition. So that doesn't really go well with me. I mean, there's competition in everything. So I don't even, no disrespect, but, I think it's important for us to ask these kind of questions. As far as ingress, egress, how does this fit into the grand scheme? What does our market look like already? How does the Broadway corridor look? This one additional fueling station located on Blue Heron. I was sitting here thinking in my mind, Blue Heron is the main road in Riviera Beach. This is the exit that's connected to the ocean, also connected to the interstate, and we also have freight that intersects with Blue Heron Boulevard. And just off of 95, in fact, if you travel all the way from 710, there's a number of different fueling stations. So, I kind of keep all of that in mind. There were some things about the environmental concerns. I'm not even sure that's even in our purview of even considering, because I'm sure there's other regulatory agencies that have done their work. And, I don't think we're trained nor is staff trained to even comment on the environmental concerns. But with that in mind, I would expect that, when we decide to vote on it, then, we would be informed. We would know what those environmental concerns, if there are any, or if there aren't. So I think that's something that should be, at least considered when we take up this information and decide to vote. And, here we are, 2014. I'm thinking 2024, we can think back when, we've moved on and we're no longer on the board. And we can, drive up the Broadway corridor and say, well, I remember when we voted on that issue or when that matter came up. I mean, is this really something that we want to look at? And I think that's what we need to consider. And I've heard a number of different things. There was, I think, some things about the contract with the bus, and I just thought that was the weirdest thing that I ever heard, that here it is, a private developer, and I understand what the whole private-public partnerships are, but why would the owners of the 7-Eleven be responsible for maintaining and installing a bus shelter? I mean, I'm really trying to understand how that's even relevant. And traditionally, I know those are maintained and done by Palm Beach County. Furthermore, I heard staff mention the 300 feet requirement. I mean, if you look at the facility, I mean, is it 300 feet from where? Is it 300 feet from the existing structure? I mean, there's other businesses there. You know, I often hear that, and it was done by U.S. Mail. And I'm not sure if it's this slide, but just a couple others, I guess it's the green portion in the upper right-hand corner. Those are residential places. I know the place just to the north of it is an abandoned, I think it's an abandoned restaurant or something another. But we've had quite a few comments from individuals that weren't within that 300 feet. So, you know, in all my best judgment, I would think that I don't want to live somewhere and then next thing I know there's a 18-wheeler pulling up alongside my bedroom window with the with the fuel diesel engine that's running the fuel tanks. You know, I just would like to see that everybody's to the table. That's why I want to make sure everybody has a voice to address those concerns. It seems pretty quick, and you know, we get these memo packets a week out, and you know, quite frankly, on a Thursday, so I probably won't see it until Monday. So there's some things that I, you know, would like to see that, you know, we can kind of at least kind of think about these issues and see what's the best use for the project or what have you. With that, I'm allowed, and if there's no objections, the applicant to come back and probably address some of those concerns or some of those questions, if there aren't any objections from members, and then we'll call the vote. Mr.
I'll just say as a point of clarification as far as the notification, the special exception process requires staff to require notification through U.S. mail within the 300-foot buffer from the actual property boundary itself. So that's the distance measurement. Additionally, the building itself is posted, and there's a public advertisement in the Palm Beach Post, as well as advertisement through really our meeting agenda, as well as our mass email that we send out.
I do have a
Thanks.
question, Steph.
Thanks. Just one moment, Ms. Davis. Yeah, and I absolutely understand that 300 feet requirement by mail, but the legal notices, you know, I won't go into the advertisement about legal notices, but I would like to see our state legislature require something much more than a publication in the newspaper, because who just so happens to turn open a paper and see it in the newspaper? Like, really, who's a subscriber that goes in and looks at the public disclosure section? So that's not even good enough for me. I mean, we're Americans. We live, we work. I don't necessarily read through and comb through every section of a paper to find out that there's a business going up around the corner from me. I do understand that you guys say you send out letters, absolutely. But if I live across town, I think I should still be concerned, even if I'm not in that buffer area. So, that's often done as something, and I know I've heard it quite a few times here at the Planning and Zoning meeting. We don't utilize our website enough. We don't utilize Channel 18. In fact, we do utilize it for what I think administration thinks is good, but what about for the greater good of the people? Because, believe it or not, I'm 400 miles away, and I do tap in and I try to look at the live link and see what's going on in my city. I had no idea that this was coming up until a week out. So I think it's important that we utilize all means and mediums of advertising. Just before I get to you, there was a question about the abandonment of the utilities, and I was curious about that, where that was on the map of the easement utilities.
Charles, can I? Yeah. I have met with city staff in FPL. Basically, from what we learned at the site meeting, there's an existing pole right near the corner of 27th and Broadway. That is going to be the last above ground pole heading north. From that pole south, they're going underground. I don't know the southern limit of where that stops. We have worked with staff to actually provide an easement area where it's about a 20-foot by 40-foot area for an FPL facility as part of the system to make that work for the city. So another thing we were able to work with the utility company and the city to make this area better and get some utilities underground. And it sounds like they're going to continue to do that, but at least we can be a part of this section of the work for this certain area.
Okay, great, thank you. Just one other concern, and on the last page, I guess this is a little awkward because what I got by email is not exactly what I had here in front of me tonight, but it says on the last page of the memo by Bowman Consulting, it says, number 4, the driveway access along Blue Heron shall be directional and the median should be added to the construction plan. Left turns out of the southern entrance should be eliminated and a right turn only sign added at the stop sign. I guess that's the actual very last page in the packet. But if that's true, then I think that makes it even more inaccessible for not just any vehicle, but specifically those large fueling vehicles. So I guess at the lower portion of the screen, which would be the southern portion, then I imagine once you exit out of that parking lot, there's a stop sign that says no left turn, right turn only. And in order to, I say, go eastbound to Single Island, then you would have to circle around the block down 27th Street in a vehicle. I can understand that. In a 18-wheeler, it's impossible. And then I think that's almost infringing upon the whole noise ordinance that we were just questioning.
I can assist with that as well. DOT did not want to put a raised median here. This
Charlie,
access.
Charlie, would you come to the microphone? I have to stop.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We
Yeah.
wanted to capture
Yeah.
this.
So the Blue Heron driveway there is actually, it will be labeled right in, right out only. There will not be left turns permitted in or out of that driveway by FDOT. That'll be done with striping similar to the arrows you see in the turn lane here. They did that because, obviously there's a double yellow line in Blue Heron. It's illegal to cross that line technically. So that comment by the city was basically overridden by FDOT. And there should have been a response stating that in the package.
I'm not understanding what the median is referring to. Is it referring to right there in the lot of the
What they were looking for is the unofficial term is a pork chop median. So you're looking for just a small raised triangular median right here.
So
that would
on the property and not on the actual...
On the property, yes, sir.
I think that is now clear. Okay.
And as far as fuel delivery or truck delivery, what they'll do is they'll be coming northbound, right, land on the tanks, and then turn out and go again. And I've got, I believe that's in the plan, and if it's not, we can provide. There is a truck route drawing that 7-Eleven uses to get approved by their delivery company.
Okay. I think that does it for me. And I apologize, Ms. Davis. You can ask your question.
I instructed some of the people who had inquiries to the website, and it wasn't posted, and neither was the meeting, planning and zoning meeting. Would you tell me when you posted it? How long ago, and how far in advance do you send out the notices to the neighborhood, to the neighbors?
The advertisement is about 2 weeks prior to the meeting.
And is it on the website? 2 weeks
Well,
prior?
on the website.
Is the meeting, all the documentation that you provide to us?
Everything was not on the website 2 weeks.
When was it placed on there? It wasn't on last week.
The public notice is required in the paper 2 weeks in advance of the meeting itself. The packet itself was distributed, unfortunately not in its entirety, on Thursday afternoon. And supplemental information was sent out, I believe, on Monday, and the information was on the website in its entirety on Monday.
Okay, but there was no notice of the meeting under the city meetings?
Not that I'm aware of that.
Don't usually post all the meetings? Aren't all the meetings posted? On a city calendar, aren't all the meetings posted?
Unfortunately, the calendar is kind of separate from what we're doing. We've tried to coordinate with them, but I think, as you already know, it was not on the city calendar because the city calendar is operated by a separate entity than us.
Well, it's sort of difficult for the residents to know what's happening at the most important committee meeting. And we're not chopped liver. We're not potted plants. We're really important. I mean, we're planning and zoning. I mean, I'm not trying to be imperious, but I think that.
Staff has definitely made a great effort to provide adequate notification as required by our code and state statute. If there's additional advertising requirements, there's no requirement that says we have to sync up our city calendar with the planning and zoning board. We do provide the meeting agenda and back material on our website. I have a contact list, an email list that I send out to anyone that's interested in the information for the planning and zoning board meeting. So I will say firsthand that we made a very strong effort to notify people as far as the legal requirements are. If there's additional methods of notification that the board would like to suggest, that's fine, but I think that actually tonight we have more turnout than in many meetings past. So, of course, that can be subject matter, but there's always ways of improving the notification. I think with the resources we have, we're doing the best that we can. Syncing up with the city calendar definitely makes a lot of sense, and I think there's always ways of improving, but I think that staff did make a good faith effort to provide notification to the public in this meeting.
Thanks.
Mr. Colton, or does someone else have a comment or a question? Mr. Richards.
Chair, thank you. I'll be relatively brief. We want good, if not great, business to come to our city. We have waited for years for businesses to bring great proposals to our city. We have a fantastic company here, 7-Eleven, that has presented a great plan to improve our city. They, as many other businesses, when a business decides whether or not they should come to a city or come to a location, the first thing they do is they go to the municipal code and they look at the code. The code is, as you know very well, and we all know, those are the statutes. Those are the rules and regulations. That is how business makes decisions. Should I bring my millions of dollars here and employ many people? And businesses need certainty. 7-Eleven believes they have that certainty, especially after they were very agreeable and malleable, I'll say, with staff. Staff really had them change the building. Staff has them building a bus shelter, which I understand and I respect your concerns. But 7-Eleven said yes, 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 and yes, and yes, and yes again. And they'll probably say yes again if you yes for something else. So I'm a little concerned, and I heard some of the comments, and thank you for correctly suggesting that a lot of the comments are of competitive nature. Quite frankly, I'm looking forward to less expensive gasoline, by the way. The city staff has said this meets the criteria they wanted. The redevelopment agency has said, we want this. We believe this is right. We believe this is good. Others have suggested it will further spark growth. So both sides of the city have said yes. They don't have a vote today. Each and every one of you have a vote. Has this company shown that they meet your code? Have they met the criteria? Will they be good, if not great, corporate citizens? I'm sitting here, of course I'm biased, but quite frankly, I sincerely believe, and I hope you do as well, that that'll be the quietest corner. That'll be the safest corner. Those lights will be on. The people will be walking around there. The video will be good. It will, I won't disparage mom and pops, but that will be the safest corner in the area. They need certainty. That will definitely spur growth in the area. But more importantly, they meet our code. The city wants it. Your redevelopment agency wants it. And I would strongly ask that you please approve this, and I know that you know the city. I thank everyone for your time. You have spent a lot of time here tonight, and that's a significant sacrifice. You could be home having dinner, but you're not here at that dinner. So thank you for your time and your very strong questions. And if you have any more questions of us, we'll stay all night and answer them.
Any other concerns? I got a unique question. I guess it's for legal. And it's the bus shelter issue. That just seems like a little bit of quid pro quo. And I just remember something in the past that, you know what? I just don't want to stipulate that we ask anything of the applicant in exchange, not for the city, but for the benefit of the city, when traditionally it's not a responsibility of the city. So it just seems like a bit unusual, this bus shelter thing, because I certainly can recall something in the past. Not our city, of course, we don't do those kind of things, but other places.
If I may, before legal response, from my own personal experience working with Palmcran, I believe it's CBS that is responsible for construction of bus shelters. There was one instance where I had written 4 letters before I got a response saying, no, we're not interested in constructing any more bus shelters. And that was in an area that was not nearly as trafficked as this location. It is very unique, and I understand why you're questioning it. However, the fact is that that bus stop is used often. I think that a lot of the customers that 7-Eleven will generate will also be based on that bus stop. Unfortunately, there aren't trash receptacles, and Mr. Ward actually did provide a photo of basically an overflowing trash bin at the site. If there's not trash receptacles that are well maintained, if there's not a bus station that's well maintained, the site itself has the opportunity to turn into an eyesore. So I think we had the opportunity here, and there's been other municipalities that have gone in the same direction. They've constructed their own bus shelters, and they've agreed to maintain them, or they've partnered with other developers that have come in the area and worked to really get to that end goal of having a more really pedestrian-friendly and usable environment. Because if you go by the bus stop as it is, you just have a sign, and you'll probably find a few shopping carts turned over. And that's the current bus stop, the bus seats, the bus shelter.
And I understand all of that, Jeff, but, when you look at it, and I'm just going to be in summation of it, construction of a 2,900 foot 7-Eleven convenience store, 12 fueling pump stations with the following conditions. 7-Eleven should construct and maintain a bus shelter. So this is a part of the arrangement contingent upon you constructing this shelter. But wait, Jeff. But my question is this: when I just asked this, you cited, well, they showed us an overflowing trash receptacle. So what? But my question is not even about the convenience or having a receptacle. It's more of ethical and best business practices in a situation like this. We're granting them site plan approval based on this condition that they provide us a bus shelter, because that's clearly exactly what it says here. I mean, it does seem like quid pro quo. I mean, regardless of whether the trash is overflowing and 7-Eleven want to be a good Samaritan and install it, it is what it is. We're granting an application based on the conditions that they provided. So that right there, I just don't even agree with, because, I've seen it in the past where I'm not an attorney, but potentially things come up. And I don't want the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics to tell us it's wrong. I mean,
What I'll say is we may not be able to come to an agreement on this one at this point in time, but staff wouldn't pursue anything that was illegal. And we wouldn't push conditions that haven't legally been done elsewhere.
Thanks. Ms. Stubbs?
I have not reviewed the conditions. It seems that there are 3 parties involved, not just the city, but it seems not only 7-Eleven, but also the county. So I don't know what the discussions were with regards to that. If an entity comes in the city and wants to donate something to the city or provide something to the city on its own, of course they're free to do that if it's going to improve the city. I don't think, from my understanding, that is a stipulation that if you don't provide this, then you will not meet the special exception contingency. I think this was something that the parties got together, even if it's improved landscaping or something like that. But again, I was not involved with the discussion, but I don't get the indication that it's a quid pro quo unless you do this. Because I don't believe the city would put itself in that type of position unless you do this, or contingent solely upon this, that the city would or would not grant the special exception.
Okay, thanks. Is there a motion, or do we have any other comments? Mr. Colton?
My one question I'd like to get answered, and what is 7-Eleven responsible if there is a potential spill? Who would be responsible for any cleanup, water contamination? And is that in part of this negotiation? Is it in with what we're doing here today?
Any environmental issues with fuel or any contamination whatsoever, of course, is handled with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. As part of the lease, 7-Eleven would be responsible for any environmental issues on this site, not only once this tank is in the ground, but while we're installing it. Part of our due diligence is to provide environmental studies, geotechnical reports of soil samples and groundwater samples, and full permitting with all required agencies for the installation of these facilities, which of course are high risk, and that's why there's so much care taken into the planning and permitting of these facilities. So yes, we would be responsible for the contamination there.
Thank you. Any other comments? The floor is open for a motion. Is there a motion?
I'd like to move that we table this until all of the questions that were raised here are answered, and any additional questions that the board may have, and bring this back at our next meeting in 2 weeks.
Properly moved in second. I'm just curious, Mr. Canuti, the questions that was brought up here. I heard a lot of questions. So, I mean, is there a directive, in tabling it, a specific directive, or because there was a number of different things, and I don't want to rehash this next meeting.
Just as a point of order, I don't know if the correct term is to table it or postpone it to the next meeting. But if it's tabled, then
It's got, postpone. Postpone is a better word. Postpone until next meeting until the questions that were raised, and they're all in the record, okay? And there may be some others that you may get from the board that were stimulated by this meeting, and bring it back at our next meeting.
And if I may as well, previously what staff's done that's been beneficial for all parties involved is we'll come up with a running list of questions that have been generated and then provide responses to those questions. So that way we can bring the information back to you for the next meeting, and if there are remaining questions, we can continue that process, but hopefully that will answer all outstanding questions.
Sounds reasonable.
Do you have a second to the postpone?
It's been noted. So properly moved by Mr. Canuti, and it was second by Ms. Brooks. And it includes, instead of tabling, the motion
Postpone.
includes postponing. I guess temporarily postponing. Any other comments, concerns about this motion? Hearing none, Mario, if you'll call the roll on temporarily postponing.
Arthur Hamilton.
Just a point of order, he doesn't have voting rights for this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Now, in absence of Ms. James, which I'm not sure where she is, would that allow her to vote?
She did step out. If you'd like to grant voting rights for Mr. Hamilton, you have the right to do so. I didn't know if Ms. James was still present or if she had left.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, she's present. We're going to allow that she's present. So, if you'll call her, she's present. So I don't think the voting rights would be.
Brian Colton.
Yes.
Julius Wiggum.
Yes.
Marie Davis.
Yes.
Renee James. Michelle Bruce.
Yes.
Edward Kennedy.
Yes.
Frederick McCoy.
Yes.
Motion passes. Unanimous voting.
Thank you. Moving on to number 9, public comments. We're going to call Gerald Ward.
Good evening again, Gerald Ward, 2135 Broadway. I had listed out 3 comments and I had a closure of 4, which was very short. But Mr. Chair, and you have another item about election of a chair later on. But one of the things that was so pleasant tonight was the use of the meeting to develop the citizen comments. And although I think made in my comment that there's many levels of lower level government, the state and the feds, that control a lot of the questions of environmental and so forth. So the applicant was correct in that matter. It is a concern of citizens that needs to be addressed in the planning and zoning process of this town. And you got out on the table another one, competition, which you clearly and correctly, I think, said that's not the board's prime subject. Second, so when you select a new chair, think about that each of you can grow into your lives by being an officer of this board. Second, today the County Commission took up Maritime Museum, Peanut Island. It's a subject that has been festering since we threw the Maritime Museum out of town about 1992, and they were in Cap Malix, and the county was just getting totally upset. Palm Beach was upset, Riviera Beach is upset, Palm Beach Shores had problems. But they came to a resolve to keep status quo over there. In the meantime, the Viking people, we don't know whether it was the Viking boat builder because I couldn't read the letter, the one-page memo that was issued yesterday, or the Viking Shell Corporation terminated the use of all of the city marina and their properties for parking for the Maritime Museum. So that stopped the problem that has confused the tenants of the Riviera Beach Marina. You have another issue which you sort of touched on, but a project list. This project has been around since January. Why y'all didn't know about it in February? Because there could have been a lot of input, and maybe these folks would have gone home today with an approval because you would have solved the problems February, March, and into April. But you never get a project list of projects that are sitting in the door. And there certainly aren't a lot. So you really had a good meeting. You got lots of comments. The people of Riviera Beach may not speak the King's English some days, and it may be hard to understand what's going on, but by God, they got a lot on the table tonight that you need to hear.
Thank you, Mr. Canuti. Members, I guess I just got note that Ms. James had to leave because of family emergency, so we're going to excuse her for that. Bonnie Larson.
You asked if people in the neighborhood were notified of the meeting. I did get a letter. It wasn't 15 days ahead of time, but when you do that 300 feet, sometimes there's more than 300 feet on the property. So it would seem that if you did it this way, and if you can do it this way, here's your property. 300 feet from this corner, this corner, this corner, and this corner. Because depending on where you take that 300 feet, it can all be in here. But if you take it from these four corners, like I said, I don't know if you're allowed to make that change or make that stipulation. That would be good because those are the people that are surrounding it, no matter what side of the building you're on. Mr. Ward brought up something I forgot about, that on-street parking. New businesses are supposed to dedicate part of the frontage there to on-street parking. So that has to be taken into consideration. Any other businesses coming to town about that footage, and a business may not have enough room to put a particular project if they do that, but that is now a requirement. Another thing, personal experience, that project, this one, talked about a wall in the easement, and I mentioned it should really go along those businesses too. But a wall in the easement is a problem, and it was in the paperwork tonight, and I can tell you because we have a business in back of us, and I talked till I was blue in the face, do not let them put a wall in that easement. We have a 10-foot utility easement. The applicant wanted to put it right down the middle. And I said, please don't do that because Florida Power and Light and AT&T, whomever, want to go in that 10 feet. And they gave me the routine, they have to take down the wall if that's the situation. Well, no, they don't want to do that. Florida Power and Light and AT&T don't want to do that because that's going to require them getting equipment to tear down that wall. It's just not going to happen. It's not reality. So what they do, they try and come on our property and they left holes this big with their big trucks and they're mad at us all the time. And I'm telling them, I talked till I was blue in the face to say to the city, don't do it. So for future projects, keep that in mind. Keep that utility easement open so that there are no problems. When it's a situation such as tonight, now these people, I don't believe they're 7-Eleven, they're a company which wants to buy the property and then lease it to 7-Eleven. Okay, let's say that falls through. They could lease it to anyone else. So you're not necessarily dealing with whom they tell you they hope to sell to. If you give the approval, then they can then lease it to whomever. So it's, you got to think about those things. Someone said tonight that something is better than nothing, and I disagree with that. As far as contamination, yes, Walgreens property is contaminated. There used to be a car wash there, and there was a gas station there, and all kinds of things there. That property on Broadway that the CRA wanted the city to buy, that still has contamination equipment sitting there years and years and years. And any one of those property owners can come back and say, that's your responsibility. That contamination unit is still there for years and years. We've got to remember Solitron. Listen to an applicant rather than to the attorney for the applicant, because the attorney's not going to be there when you got a problem and you're going to be dealing with the applicant. So deal with the applicant, not the applicant's attorney. It really doesn't matter what they say. And could you please tell me the legal difference between table versus postpone? Thank you.
Mayor Brown.
Mayor Brown, Riviera Beach. The meeting tonight was very informative. Chair, you did a good job. And I admire you for that too, for opening up for the dialogue, even though they did not have cards in. But this is the engagement that we as residents often ask about. It's always nice to hear every side. Whichever way you decide to vote, is always another side of information that you can take in consideration to iron out those kinks that you do have. I would like to ask Jeff here. It is a bus stop right there on somewhere on Broadway there, am I correct? Okay, so the bus stop that they were proposing was it on US Highway 1 or was it still on their Broadway side?
It's actually right on Broadway, directly adjacent to the utility house.
Okay, so I know, Chair, you had some reservations whether or not it was part of the site scope plan. But I think even with businesses, if they come in and they want to take charge of doing something and we hold them accountable for it, I look at that as being a plus. But I think tonight that you all really, really did your homework, and even though you decided to postpone this project here, but my concern is Walgreens. When Carl made that statement about that contamination fume that evaporated into that BP station, and they said that they smelled it, that is a big problem. It may not have been on your scope tonight, but as an authoritative figure that allows whatever that comes into the city here, even FDOT, you work with FDOT too, and I think as a board that should be noted into your records. And someone should make sure that this is clarified and whether or not, this is happening down there, because it will pose a great harm and environmental component, not just for down there, but the whole city as a whole. So I would like for you all to not to just say that it does not concern you, because it does concern you, because you represent us. And whatever comes in this city, like I said, you as a board approves what goes in and what goes out. So I would like on record there too, that Jeff, you all do, look into that. And if you can expound on it tonight, fine. If you have some explanation why this is happening down there, please do so. Thank you.
Margaret Shepherd.
Margaret Shepherd, Riviera Beach. I too am very happy of the dialogue that was put forth today. I do read the newspaper, and I guess that's how I get an opportunity to come and speak my piece. But I think everyone will have to understand sooner or later that the groundbreaking at the marina has opened up a new door for us. I think every business in this city will be able to have a win-win situation. I like 7-Eleven. It's something that I just like. I like going to take my kids to the beach. I don't like to cook. I don't think I have to now. Picking up something is going to be very quick and easy. Not just me. It's a lot of people. Mr. Williams was trying to allude to the senior citizens. We don't like to cook. We have the grandchildren, the great-grands. This is a quick and easy solution for us. And I wish that you all would really, Ms. Brooks really was bringing it out. Do these particular places, go to Palm Beach Gardens, and there used to be a 7-Eleven, I think, in Lake Park. I think it was a 7-Eleven on Singer Island. I enjoyed it. I just enjoy this. I just enjoy it. And it's something to think about. Is the crime going to go down? In West Palm Beach, they're having a lot of problems with crime. They have a lot of functions. I live downtown, and I can tell you, I live right there where I can walk right straight to Flagler. There's a lot of crime down there. Is it crime down there? Still, yes. Yes, it's a lot of crime down there. They don't talk about it, but it's down there. So what do? We just try to make it better. The garbage is horrendous down on Clematis and over into that area. But does that stop them? No, it does not. And I think this is an eye-awakener for us, that we have been living so down, so we just can't see. We don't see it. But I hope that you all would take it under consideration. I just love the dialogue. It was great. I just enjoyed it. The car wash. I sat on that board, and I was one of the ones. I was really sad for Mrs. Larson. It was horrible. But I declare that when this new marina jump-starting it, I declare that a lot of people are going to come. They're going to stop at that car wash. They're going to stop at the 7-Eleven. They're going to stop and get ice cream. We cannot stop progress. And the one thing that's in our backyard is the beach. People are going to be stopping. They're going to be picking up things. They're going to be moving very quickly. So I hope that you guys will really stop and think about that. I understand what happened in the past, You have Ivy Green, Mr. Cobb was here. They're getting ready to go online soon. The senior citizens, we will be moving back soon. A lot of traffic will be coming there because seniors just don't like to cook. They don't like to cook. This is a quick and easy Band-Aid for us. And so I can keep on talking about it, but I hope you guys will take it under consideration and allow 7-Eleven to come in. And I thank you.
Thank you. If there's no objections from the board, I just have a couple questions of Scott. I think if you don't mind, and it's going to be really brief. I know I heard you mention that when the CRA adopted the new downtown code, I think you said 13. Can you expound on that? Because, I didn't even know that. And I was a little shocked when I seen the downtown code in this agenda packet, and I was like, well, when did that happen?
The code is based on the changes that we did to the redevelopment plan, which was in 2011. And then we developed those codes, and they were brought before planning and zoning following review by the CRA board. And then eventually they were adopted by city council.
Okay.
And I think it went to P&Z a couple of times before final approval. But it was I think it was over like a year period, so it might have been a while ago.
Is that what we worked on with Ms. Anthea?
Yeah, I was just going to reference the fact that Ms. Anthea, you noticed from Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council that come on multiple occasions, and that's what we were working through.
Okay. Well, see, it was just interesting, and that's why I think it's important for us to know what happens after it leaves here, because, sometimes we see issues and then it doesn't get on council's agenda the following meeting, then, maybe 2 meetings down the line, and I don't even, at that point, it may be off our radar. So, I guess those kind of things are good to know because, quite frankly, I didn't even know that they had adopted it. So, great, I'm glad to see that. And, I assumed that they had adopted it. I just kind of wanted to see when that occurred because I was out of the loop. Now, also, you alluded to the fact that the CRA has purchased, I guess, the portion at Blue Heron North all the way to 27th Street on Broadway. What's the conceptual, and I know guys don't have you may not be in the actual plan or conceptual planning stages at this point, but those properties, what did the CRA have in mind? Because, I'm thinking, how does this whole thing fit into it? Because, we're sitting here hashing out nearly 2 hours and 15 minutes about this, this fueling station. I'm just curious, what's the plans for the CRA with that, since you guys own the property?
Across the street from this, we knocked down the building that was right on the corner, right up against the intersection. And because we want buildings close to the street, but not on top of the street. And then we gave some of the property on the intersection to FDOT so that they could fix the turn radius so that trucks could make that turn without driving up on the sidewalk. And then if you notice, we have our new Riviera Beach development sign that was put up there that advertises our new marina project that's coming, as well as the long-term changes that we're trying to promote on Broadway. And then today they just put in the landscape package, well, the trees, but they're quite significant, so it's going to look really good. Just directly north of that lot that we're putting the landscaping on, and I would have to thank the staff who worked very closely with us in designing that landscaping, as well as the sign, actually, is the Cash America pawn shop. Now, we bought that building, and they have a long-term lease, so they're in that building for a long time.
If you can, you mind sharing what that is? Because, my thing is, when we're forward thinking, I'm just trying to figure out when I travel down Broadway, how appealing is it to see 2 pawn shops? And I don't want to, allude to nothing negative, but you know, I'm just curious, what's the relationship there?
Well, we have to honor their lease, so I believe it's like 15 years at least. So they have a long-term lease. But what we're going to do to the building is, one of the things is we're going to get the pawn shop to stop having their
items out on the
sidewalk.
That'll be great.
And then secondly, we're going to put a new facade on the building. If you noticed the Save-A-Lot, how they came into that, which is across the street just north of the project you were talking about tonight, they put a very nice facade program together and really, changed the whole look of that property. So what we're going to do is look at what 7-Eleven has been able to propose, and have our architect look at that project that was completed for the Save-A-Lot, and then we're going to come up with something that would blend those two designs. Decorative lighting on that's proposed by the 7-Eleven project that sticks out from the building. We think that's a good idea, so we're going to duplicate something like that, and possibly do a similar metal roof on top of the building if it can fit in. Now, we do have a limited budget, and the project will do more than just put a new facade on the building. We're going to redo the circulation. If you pull into the Dairy Bell there, or if you're going to the Cash America, the parking lot doesn't work very well. Additionally, it needs more outside lighting, it needs new landscaping, it needs a brand new parking lot. So we're going to look at that project. We'll redo all of that, as well as, since we own the Dairy Bell building, we're looking at putting a new facade on that building, and then working with the property owner towards getting a grant so that they can redo the interior. So we'll have ideally a brand new inside and outside for the Dairy Bell, brand new lot, site, parking lot, landscaping, and a new facade on the building.
Great.
And that will eventually, the new site plan will come to you eventually.
Okay. A question: does the downtown core zoning district allow for pawn shops in the, going forward?
I would let Jeff finish.
Yeah, pawn shops are an interesting use. Probably over 10 years ago, the city decided that having pawn shops along the commercial corridors was not something that was favorable to just the environment of the city in general. Currently, it is possible to have a pawn shop within the city. However, I believe they're only allowed in general industrial zoning districts with other requirements attached. So the two existing pawn shops on US 1 would both be considered legal non-conforming at this point.
Okay, so if for whatever reason they're not occupied for, do we have a caveat in the code for 30 days or something like that?
So I think it's 6 months.
6 months.
6 months. Okay.
Well, it might be 180 days.
Okay. Well. Okay.
6 months.
All right. Good enough. I just was curious.
Either one.
All right. Thanks. I appreciate that, Scott. Thank you for your patience, and I appreciate all your hard work at the CRA.
Thank you, and I appreciate all the in-depth questions you had tonight. We are very much in support of that project, so hopefully they can bring back some of the answers for your next meetings, so you can probe more and find out if this project meets your desire.
Thank you. That takes us down to correspondence, and I'm not sure if this letter that the email that we received should have went into the record. We didn't take any substantive action on it, but I think we've all received a copy of it. The email, or did you guys receive it? Okay, great. Well, I don't think it's necessary to read it. Jeff?
There wasn't a request to read it into the record. I did respond to Ms. Lindblom, and I said that I would distribute the information to each board member. I also have it available in the public record copy and back. So we'll submit this as correspondence just within our records, the same as we would for Mr. Ward's photograph that he provided.
That'd be great. Moving on to,
Actually, yeah, before we go past correspondence, Mr. Hamilton did provide information as far as a conference that's upcoming, June 11th, 12th, and 13th. I also did provide handouts to board members on that. The cost right now seems to be prohibitive for the board to attend. However, that was provided to the city manager, I believe, as well as council members. So we are looking for educational opportunities for the board. However, I don't think our budget is going to be able to allow for board members to go to this one unless they choose to do so in their own accord.
Thank you. If there's no other correspondence, we're going to move on to planning and zoning board chair and vice chair nominations.
And also as a point of order, I may have spoken too quickly before. It seems as if Ms. James has left for the night, so it may be in order to allow Mr. Hamlin to have voting rights.
Okay. Great, thanks. So, Mr. Hamilton, you're voting.
You voted.
Sorry. I apologize. I didn't know. I didn't want to, disallow her the opportunity to vote.
Yeah, well, I don't think she let. I didn't personally know if she was still in attendance or not, so that's why there was that question. But at this point in time, I think it's definitely clear that Mr. Hamilton should have voting rights. So, if I may, what I'll do is typically we'll open the floor for nominations for chair. You're allowed to nominate either yourself or another representative of the board. Typically, we'll have just an open nomination, and whoever is desiring to do so has the opportunity to do so. So at this point, does anyone have any nominations for chairperson?
Well, I'd like to nominate Mr. Canuti.
Mr. Canuti, any other nominations? Any other nominations for chairperson? Hearing none. Mr. Canuti, you have something?
Yes, I would like to nominate Mr. McCoy for a second term. I think we had a rule that you can serve 2 terms. I think he's done a good job.
Yeah, I don't think there's any rule that basically states that the same chairperson can serve once again. So.
We did set a rule a while back that you couldn't do more than 2.
That's it.
Well, in that event, I will withdraw my motion. And second, Mr. Canuti's.
If I may, I will only accept it if there's no other nominations on the floor. That's the only reason I would. But the floor is still open. Anybody's welcome to nominate themselves. But I think it's more than fair.
Stay where you are.
If that's a requirement, I'll withdraw.
Any other nominations for chair? Hearing none. I guess,
You're it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the vote of confidence. That's very encouraging. Thank you. That says a lot. I have my colleagues' confidence. Moving forward, the nominations for vice chair. The floor is open.
I nominate Mr. Canuti again.
Second.
I will accept this time.
The floor is still open for vice chair nominations. We have Mr. Canuti. Any other vice chair nominations? Anyone wishing to nominate himself? I cannot nominate myself. No, I'm just kidding. The floor is closed. With no other nominations, Mr. Canuti, you're the vice chair.
Thank you for your confidence.
Thank you. Board comments.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah.
I have one question. If just before, how did the electric fence get to City Council after we rejected it twice?
Well, procedurally, the Planning and Zoning Board can make a recommendation, whether that's to approve or deny an item, and ultimately the City Council has the opportunity to review the minutes from the meeting, review the decision of the Planning and Zoning Board, and ultimately either approve or deny the item itself.
And what was the result?
The result was the request was to amend our code to allow for electric fences within certain areas identical to what come from Planning and Zoning Board previously. The city council also determined that it was not favorable to the city and was voted down.
Okay, thank you. No other questions?
Any other members? Board comments?
I'd like an answer to the question as to the difference between table and postpone from legal, please.
Thank you. That's a very good question.
I actually just pulled it up in my iPad. Had a really brief conversation with Ms. Lawson. She asked the question. This is just a legal website, so it may not be 100% word for word, but my understanding also is reflected here. I'll just read it really briefly. When a matter is tabled, it is set aside and the body doesn't specify when or whether it will take up the matter again. So being that there was a date determined during the motion, that the most appropriate term would just be to postpone it till that date certain.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Well, I guess that leads to the next question. So we're definitely going to be here in 2 weeks on the second week in, I guess, May.
I'll definitely be here in 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, God's willing, I'll be here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. So so we can schedule. We can plan to have a meeting.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. If you don't mind, in correspondence, I neglected just to bring up a memo that was distributed to all the board members. So I just want to make sure that it was received, my March 21st memorandum regarding the issue that was raised by Mr. Hamilton as far as board members appearing by some other type of electronic means. So I just want to make sure everyone got a copy of the memo.
I think so. And, I actually read that, and one of the concerns that I had was, I think you said, I think it alluded to if it was deemed necessary or something along those lines.
Generally, what the Attorney General has opined at this point, that the board has to, number one, it has to be a quorum present, and number two, for the absent member to appear, the board has to deem it not only necessary, but that a good cause has been shown for that particular board member to appear by an electronic means. So the Attorney General has indicated like some type of illness or disability that enables that particular board member from appearing is what good cause has been shown in the past.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other members choosing to comment? I won't see you guys until next month, so this is the opportunity to make a comment. Just before we go, any upcoming meetings? Well, I guess we know about the upcoming meeting now on the 8th. So if there's nothing else,
Move to adjourn.
I'm sorry. Just a moment. Can we do it off the record? Because I think we've been more than gracious with public comment. So.
Oh, it was for your message.
Okay, so we'll call this meeting adjourned.
My husband said I think I deserted him. So I'll be home 7:30 to make dinner.
I need to write you a pass.
An excuse.